Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 59. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the CGS forums, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Jim. Did you see a blowfish driving a sports car? So asks the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, and fisherman extraordinaire. Are you watching Torchwood?
Yes, I am.
I know it's not DC, but I am I've mentioned on the show multiple times, I'm a huge, 30-plus year Doctor Who fan. It actually is almost as long as the amount of time I've been a comic fan. So when, Torchwood's a great spin-off of Doctor Who. The nice part is, in BBC America, we're only a couple weeks behind England with the releases of Torchwood.
Really?
The second season of Torchwood started airing in January there, and BBC America picked it up at the end of the month. So it's really kind of cool to be getting Torchwood now, right at the same time. But that first episode, James Marsters from...
Yeah, Spike.
Spike from Angel is on the show, and he was outstanding on that. That was just a great... It's called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was the name of the episode. And for anybody who's into, your CSI-type shows with, a sci-fi twist... Would you say it's a pretty accurate, a little bit of X-Files thrown in for...
I would say kind of a funnier version of X-Files.
Yeah.
That's how I think of it. And I tell you, dude, man, that is... I was like, there's one scene in that movie, I was like, did they just... Okay. All right.
And there's this whole fighting sequence in there. So I wanted to geek out about it a little bit because that's what we're about here on Raging Bullets. And it's one of those shows that, for me... I can't wait to tune in every time there's a new episode. So definitely recommend it. It's on BBC America. Check it out. If it's something that you've never checked out before, Torchwood stands on its own as a really good series. And they explain enough in that first episode that, and I know they're re-airing it right now, that you can easily pick up what's going on in the show. So you don't need to have watched the first season to understand the second season.
Yeah, I was sporadic in my watching before, and I jumped right into it. So it's a fun show.
We are, as always, proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. And Jim and I are continuing to support the Hero Initiative. So if you go to RagingBullets.com, right on our main site page, you're going to see that link for Heroes for the Holidays, that program that we're doing through the Comics Podcast Network. Jim and I are continuing to keep that link up on the site. If you've got a couple extra bucks, and you want to throw it that way, remember, you're helping out comic creators that really laid the foundation and the groundwork for what we're reading today. So we ask you to continue supporting that particular program because it's a great way to help them out. And if you have any questions about it, visit www.heroinitiative.org or call 310-909-7809. We have a trailer at the end of the show, Jim, for Bruce Rosenberger's Komicskasts. I love Komicskast, and I got to give a shout-out also to an article that was in the first issue of Comics Now magazine. It's a feature written on podcasting by Bruce and Derek Coward of the Comic Book Noise podcast. They made mention of our show on it, and were kind enough to put in a mention to our website as well, which is really nice that they were referencing us, so that's always appreciated. They are great guys, and I urge you to check out both of their shows. Bruce's trailer is going to be at the end of the show, and it talks about some of his upcoming episodes. I am a big fan of Bruce's work. He was on our show for our 52 wrap-up episode, and he's been called by many people the dean of comic book podcasting, and there's a reason why. Bruce, when we started our show, was there for me for advice. And if you haven't listened to Komicskast or Indie Comic Book Noise, which is a program also that Bruce is involved with, I urge you to check him out because Bruce really does his homework, and he's a wonderful podcaster, so... Give him
he actually does research and reviewing, unlike us. Well, unlike me. Okay, I'll correct. Unlike me,
I've got 9 pages of notes here.
See, I just wing it,
and that's just on Countdown Arena. Wait, and we're not just doing Countdown Arena this episode. Bruce has a lot of passion, not just for comics, but the history of comics and pop culture in general. So he covers some amazing topics on his show. So I've got to give Komicskast a shout-out. I've also got to give Indie Comic Book Noise a shout-out. Both great programs. Green Arrow and Black Canary this episode was supposed to be with the Comic Book Savant. As with anything with podcasting, these shows take us a lot of time to put together, and we have been trying to coordinate and get an episode together. The last time we were going to sit down and record, Jim and I were having technical issues on our end, and James sent me an email and just said, timing-wise right now, could we delay this for a little bit? So he's going to come on sometime in the next couple weeks, couple months, depends on what his schedule looks like, and we are going to do another crossover with him on Raging Bullets. We just haven't had a chance to do it right now. He told us to go ahead and do Green Arrow and Black Canary without him because it's timely and we wanted to get to it. But I urge you to check out the Comic Book Savant podcast. James is an amazing guy. He's a great podcaster. He's a friend of our show, and we're certainly a friend of his show. And James will be on Raging Bullets. We're just going to reschedule that when the timing is more convenient for both of us so we can work out that schedule. So we are doing that this episode. We are also going to have part 2 of Eli's comment on Astro City, which is great. We're going to have that one. And he's going to focus more on the most recent series, The Dark Age, on that particular comment. And then, Jim, you and I are also going to talk about Countdown Arena in depth. And we have some forum comments and emails and listener content and stuff, so it's a pretty packed episode.
It's going to be a nice, small, light episode, right?
Yeah, actually, I want to talk about that, though. Jim and I have had kind of a mixture of episodes lately. We did the Gail Simone episode, which was about an hour and 40 minutes, which I can't believe that's a short episode. But then you've noticed since we've been getting listener content back in the show, our shows have been bumping up to 3.5, 4 hours. Because of that, when I do those meteor shows, I'm going to be putting 7 to 10 days between episodes, and keep an eye on the forum and the website for when we're going to be doing releases, mainly because I'm keeping track of the downloads and looking to see when our listeners are able to download the episodes. And it looks like if I give 10 days on those longer releases, people can kind of stay caught up with us. It actually works out if you take a look at 3 of our 4-hour episodes or 3.5-hour episodes. We're releasing the same amount of content we were releasing before. It's just we're doing it in 3 episodes versus 4 episodes a month. So it's not really a change in the amount you're getting from us. It's just a change in how we're delivering it. But I think the improvement is that the listener content is back in almost every episode. And I like that. I don't know how you feel, Jim. I think it breaks up the show in such a way that people can walk away at the end of a segment, come back later. And so I don't know what you're thinking, but...
No, I like that. It's a good interaction between all of us. This isn't just us talking. It's all of us. This is hanging out at your local comic shop, just BSing about DC Comics, and I like that feel when we add other people into this.
Right. So that's a nice part about having the forum comments and the audio comments and all that back on the show. So that's kind of what we're thinking. We're actually kind of going back to our roots with that. Segment, listener content, segment, listener content. But I do think with the longer episodes, it does give people the opportunity to have breaking points. So if somebody wants to listen, like a couple listeners said that they listened all the way through to the entire show at work, and that works for them. Other people, I'm sure, though, like the jumping off point where they can say, okay, I'll listen to your segment on Green Arrow, Black Canary, come back for the listener comments later, and then go into Countdown Arena, and that type of thing. So it gives a lot of breaking points on the show. So hopefully you're finding that that's helpful for however you like to listen to Raging Bullets.
We're going old school.
Thanks again for supporting us with Podcast Alley, Pop Current, and iTunes reviews, and so much more. Anything you do to let people know about us was tremendously helpful. And I want to give a shout-out once again to the Comics Now magazine, because that's just another way that people are getting the word out about us, and I appreciate our friends for that. If you haven't checked out that magazine, wow, for a first issue of a magazine, top quality production right out of the starting gate. It looks like a very today magazine. So the Comics Now title, it's very trendy, it's very now, and it's written to comics fans by comics fans. So if you haven't had a chance, Comic Geek Speak, the podcast, has done 2 recent episodes talking about Comics Now. So if you have more interest in the magazine, I'm just going to reference you to the Comic Geek Speak podcast and say just download those episodes, and they actually are going to do a much better job than I ever could of explaining the magazine, where the background comes from for it, and what they intend to do with it. But definitely check out their episodes on that particular magazine because it's wonderful. Want to remind everyone to check out RagingBullets.com. We have news on where the show is headed, top bullets of the month, Funny Bullets by Squatch, Love and Capes, the webcomic by Tom Zoller, so don't forget to check that out. Bullet points, reviews, sketches, columns by listeners, and so much more, including Where's What Not Now? And Jim finally sent me the chicken...
Hawkman Earth 43.
Right, and actually...
Which I sent you a while ago. You just never put it
up. Did not send it to me. I had to actually ask Mike Sims also to send it to me. And he sent it to me at the same day you sent it.
I have no idea what
we do this
talking
great
about.
segment on a show that's not a video podcast where you show me this picture, we laugh about it, and our listeners can't even see what we were laughing about. It will be up by the time you hear this episode, so go check out Where's What Not Now. Funny Bullets by Squatch. Jeff Squatch Griner of the Tome Podcast has been putting that together. If you haven't had a chance to participate in that, look at the website, check out the ones that have been done previously. if you've got panels that you would like to parody or like to see other people parody, Jeff is always looking for new content, so don't be afraid to send him that content. And that's also another one of my favorite sections of the website, because it's listener generated. And I like that. I like seeing what you guys come up with. You know, Jim and I do 4 hours a week of podcasting for you guys. And, you know, it's nice after that to see your guys' reaction to the show. Whether you agree with us or not, your guys' reaction to what's going on in comics and your sense of humor. So, having fun with that. We did get, remember my first request of Jim from Various Earths?
Yeah.
Mike Sims sent one. So there is actually a Countdown Arena, Jim, that is in the Where's What Not Now as of when this is airing. So
cool.
I would still want to see a Countdown Arena showing in there.
Okay.
So if somebody out there wants to make one of those, or Mike Sims wants to make those, he's our MVP right now of Where's What Not Now. But they're all great. I love all of them. You want to go ahead and...
Well, remember, we also have our top bullets. It's an opportunity for you guys to send in your top 5 titles that you're liking. You know, maybe throw a little something about them. You know, what's so cool about them? What you want to rant? What you want to geek out on it? I'll tally these things together, and Sean and I will comment on them. Any top 5 bullets should be sent to senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com. That's senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com.
And Elmer Fudd of this podcast.
And obviously I did not write this down because I'm stumbling over this like an idiot, but it's still a fun episode, and Sean and I will give you our top 5 for the month. We're right now looking for January titles.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be starting that back up in February. And next week, Jim, we begin Raging Oscars.
Yes. Dun, dun,
which is probably going to run over a couple of weeks, because we're also going to be getting some other comic content out of those episodes as well. But we're going to go imprint by imprint and share our top books from 2007.
Now, are we going to have a red carpet and everything, you know, and maybe someone commenting on what people are wearing? And
except nobody
best dressed, worst dressed?
Nobody'd come over here for that. like they want to come into this room, this small, hot room, to accept any award.
Hey, you never know. You know,
are we still giving out the, what do we call them? The midges?
The midges? I don't know.
Our award was going to be the midge.
Yeah.
Although, shouldn't we give them bobs? Well, they're actually...
No.
Yeah.
I think, well...
I don't want to say... Actually, I was going to make a snide comment about both characters, but I'm not going to right now, because we're giving away stuff in Countdown we haven't talked about yet, so we'll wait. So that kind of ruins that.
Yeah.
All right, what kind of podcast are we, Jim?
We are a spoiler podcast. We go in depth in a plot line, story twist, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
If you got an idea for the website or for the show, or if an audio comment or something like that you want to send in, remember ragingbullets@gmail.com. We love having you be a part of the show, so definitely consider that. And Jim, why don't we go ahead and start talking about Green Arrow and Black Canary, because it's a book I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time, and we're going to talk about issues 3 and 4, because big events happening in Green Arrow and Black Canary, and I don't know how we can't talk about this book. Our first review this episode is going to be of Green Arrow Black Canary issues 3 and 4. The writer is Judd Winnick. The penciler is Cliff. It's Chiang. Colors are by Trish Mulvihill. Letterer is Pat Brousseau. The assistant editor is Elizabeth V. Gerlin. And the editor is Mike Carlin. And Jim, Green Arrow Black Canary. I mean, I see the big Kool-Aid smile on there.
Got the big grin on my face. I tell you, I try to be understanding with people, and everybody's got their own opinion, and you can throw out what you think and whatnot, but I cannot understand why people would say Judd Winnick is a bad writer. I'm not into his stuff. Dude, these episodes have just been, bam, outstanding.
But how are the issues?
You're number one, Sean, right there. You're number one.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I don't understand the Winnick hate either. I've really liked... I'd be hard-pressed to find something he's done at DC that I didn't like. I loved his entire run on Green Arrow. I really like what he did when he brought back Jason Todd. Mm-hmm. That whole... Honestly,
oh, God, yeah.
I mean, the Red Hood saga over there was outstanding. I liked his run on Outsiders a great deal. Heck, when you jumped on Outsiders, you went back and bought all the stuff ahead of time.
I bought all... got caught up because I just wanted to see everything.
Which I can't think of a greater compliment for a writer that you actually want to go and seek out other work of theirs. So, he's batting really well for me. What did you think of the art? Big art change, because we went from, like, see, and then you and I talked about this a little off podcast, so that's why I'm bringing it up, because I love Scott McDaniel, and I really enjoyed what he was doing in Green Arrow with that book, but he wasn't my, and I don't want to say this, I don't mean it in an insulting way, I loved what he did on Green Arrow, but my first Green Arrow artist was Mike Grell and Neil Adams. So those were people that I associated with Green Arrow first. I really enjoyed what Scott McDaniel did with them, but I had already had my break from my first definitive Green Arrow artists, so I was used to seeing different artists draw them. In your case, that was your Green Arrow artist.
Yeah, he was my first artist, and I really liked it. And I'll be honest with you, the first issue, I loved the story, but the art, I was like, oh man, this isn't the same art, man. I wish, and I was sitting there and I could actually remember there were certain scenes where I was like, man, I wish this one had been drawn different. Oh, I wish, and I never once didn't like the art. Mm-hmm. It's good art, but it wasn't my artist. But by the time second, third, fourth, this is, this is good art. I'm enjoying it, and I like how it looks. There's a couple of the panels in 3 and 4 that I was just like, whoa.
Well, there's some panels in 3 and 4 that are breathtaking.
It took me a couple issues to get into it, but I'm just as excited about the look as this one as I was previous stuff.
Yeah, because Scott McDaniel did a great, that was a home run series. I really enjoyed the look. I actually enjoy anything Scott McDaniel does. So, but it was interesting. I guess I just naturally assumed, because I was enjoying the art so much on this, that right out of the starting gate you were too. And when you said, like, oh, it took me a few issues, dude, because it was a big switch, it didn't even dawn on me that for you, your attachment to him, as he was your first Green Arrow artist, so that was like the definitive Green Arrow artist for you.
Yeah, it's the first one's your definition.
Right.
Which
Jim Aparo was mine for Batman. So he was one of those. That was the first Batman issues that I really started delving into. Backwards from that, some of the Neil Adams stuff as well. But I had that same kind of Batman transition years ago, so I understood where you were coming from. I just never thought to even think to see it that way. Let's just start talking about issue 3, because issue 3 opens up with Dinah on Paradise Island, and this is spinning out of her wedding special, where she had to kill Ollie before he killed her. The person she took down and wounded wound up being Everyman. But the build to this was great, because everyone thought that she was caught up in the grief and couldn't let it go. But it was Bruce who looked at the cold, hard facts, but also went with his gut, and he believed her. And I really liked that moment, because it was clear she assumed he would be the last one to believe her because of how analytical he is in situations. Because the evidence really was kind of weak. But his standing by her was a relief, and I loved these human emotional moments. Mm-hmm. Because then Bruce really delved into it. He teamed up and found the facts, and that's how we found out it was Everyman, but really had to dig deep to find out that it was Everyman. Very cool.
Yeah, that was a neat autopsy scene, to be honest with you, and just the way it was drawn and written, because you think about it, they're getting ready to do this autopsy, they're going to cut open the body, and he's like, you may want to go over by the car. It's like, and then she's like, why? And she sees him pull out a chainsaw, and I was like, yeah, I'll wait by the car.
What was really great about it was, though, it's a good use of guests. If you're going to bring a guest character into the book, bring him in for a reason. Make it count for something, and use them properly to not only advance the story, but advance how you relate to that character and how the characters relate to each other. Those moments with Dinah where she was like being encouraged by him was priceless for me. I really, really like that. I'm a huge Batman mark. Anytime Batman has a great moment in a book, I love it. It was a great Batman moment, and I love those. So that was cool.
One thing I liked, they're trying to figure out who would set this up, who would actually kill off, fake Ollie's death, why would they do it? And of course, the way to solve the mystery was one simple question: who would benefit from Ollie's death? Same question that Batman asked in Identity Crisis. It's the same basic.
It's the question being asked in Countdown,
right?
As well.
Who would benefit? It's number one question in any murder mystery. It's who benefits from it. And I like when they do that. I like when that's a real detective mindset, and that's a cool Batman drawn, and written.
Those events led to issue 3 and the quest for Ollie, who was being held captive on Paradise Island by Granny Goodness. Dinah's being pitched for a job as the instructor of the new Furies that Granny is trying to put together. And there is a certain logic here, Jim. Kill her husband, drive her into a rage, use that rage to throw her off her game, but then to manipulate her to be under your control. And she's really was, kind of trying to give her a new life. Her old life ended. Here is your new life. And here's that opportunity for you. Real interesting logic and a way to do it. And we've seen her use these tactics with Scott Free in the original omnibuses with Jack Kirby, and also with Mary Marvel. So it's real interesting to see this carried over to different characters and to see that she uses these tactics successfully.
If you really want to control someone, if you really want to have that power over them, you break them down till they're nothing and then rebuild them. So when they're rebuilding them, the only thought going through their head is that they're getting better, they're getting stronger, and it's because of you. Mm-hmm. It's a basic technique in brainwash, in controlment. It's
make them totally rely on you.
Yeah, they think not only but rely on you in their mind, especially even subconsciously. They're thinking, I'm better because of this person. I'm better. They made me whole.
Builds loyalty.
Yeah, it's a great little thing. I was like, damn, that is cool.
And she would be an excellent choice as an instructor, so I can totally understand why she's seeking her out. Dinah is proving her fortitude in the gladiator arena. And what is great about this concept, a true leader leads by example. It makes sense that Granny is trying to build a strong army, but for what purpose? Are they going after Monarch? Is she with Darkseid, or does she have her own agenda? Darkseid seems to think the era of the new gods is done, yet he plans to make his mark. Do his lackeys feel the same? And this is where it's really getting good for me, because I keep wondering who's on whose side, who has their own agenda, what does that mean? Like, I could totally see her totally still being with him, and this is something that he wants, but I could also see her having her own little twist in there as well. And I like that you can never really trust anybody when it comes to the villains, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, obviously she's loyal to Darkseid to a certain point when it serves her purposes. But I could also see her doing her own little thing on the side to further benefit herself as well. So it's kind of fun to try and figure out where she's going and what she's up to right now. Proving one's worthiness is much like art, or say pornography. It's difficult to define, but you know it when you see it. Granny getting all philosophical.
Yeah. Well, she was in Athena role there.
Yeah.
She had a,
But not only was she an Athena role, but that was definitely a very Granny speech.
Something else, though, we're talking about in Athena role, the whole action that she was having her go through is fitting for both Athena and Granny.
Oh, sure.
I love that about this, the fact that we're seeing her. This isn't just something some maniacal monster would do. No, I could see this. She's rebuilding her Amazon. She's rebuilding the Furies. She's building this honor guard. Yeah, you're going to want the best of the best. And that's what she's proving there. I thought that was wonderful.
The other thing is, too, she has to be careful how far she pushes things because she doesn't want to tip her hat.
Right.
She doesn't want people to know ahead of time that that's...
and who she is who she is, yeah.
It's an interesting viewpoint, though, because you would gauge the reaction of the crowd. Jim and I have mentioned multiple times that we watch pro wrestling. They often have to gauge what storylines and characters are popular based on crowd reaction. And a pop or a negative reaction that is strong is very telling on who makes a great good guy or a villain. The same concept works here. Dinah would be an instructor that can be followed as long as the crowd is at a point that they are willing to learn from her out of respect. Glad to see Granny being skeptical of Maya during all this. Just the whole sequence here in that gladiator arena really worked for me. Because, Maya keeps asking the question, how long is all this going to take? And she's like, well, where do you have to be?
Yeah.
It's just great moments. Ollie and Connor are surrounded. And the moments with these two have been critical for me in this opening arc with where things go. Because you need to show how well they work together. Show how comfortable they are as father and son. The joking, the relying on each other in combat, the trust. They were so necessary to build in this unfolding drama. Connor, please shut up and tell me you've got some cover in that bag of tricks. I mean, the two have like this great banner over being heroic versus running away. The adventure feel here, dude, was so great.
Oh my God, that was just some awesome father-son banter where Ollie's like, we need to run. That's very heroic of you. Then when they actually run, let's run. Oh, once again, really heroic. I was like, they're in the middle. They're completely surrounded on all sides by Amazons who, in all intents and purposes, probably were at that point in time going, it's time to kill these two men, and they're still cracking jokes. And it's playing off of each other, and it was just a great moment. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I tell you, I was sitting there reading this stuff going, I can't wait to later issues of Green Arrow when the two Green Arrows are battling some bad guy. And I'm thinking all this really cool stuff that's going to happen with these two. I'm like, oh yeah, they're going to keep Connor around. We have Ollie and Connor doing like a double Green Arrow. Maybe Connor will get his own identity. Who knows? Oh, this is going to be neat. And all this just from these couple panels my mind is running through.
And I love the Green Arrow family concept.
Yes.
The art here, the colors, the mood, it was very Indiana Jones with the overwhelming numbers for me. And diving off the cliff, the last-minute escape, and I loved it. I mean, it was great. Visually, this was incredibly pleasing. Really enjoyed this. You get this quick interlude with Mia still watching Dinah and trying to slip away to check on Connor and Ollie. And I chuckled at the whole chamber pot bit, with Granny Goodness.
Once again, another cool moment that is appropriate because, one, I don't know how much of that was Granny not trusting her and how much of it was her keeping in character or just...
I think it was all Granny not trusting her.
I don't know, because the whole chamber pot thing, that would be very appropriate towards that time.
But visually, if you take a look at... Remember, first of all, okay, yeah, it'd be appropriate towards that time, and I buy into that to a certain extent. But did you watch the expressions on Granny's face?
There was a couple times.
The brow where it's apparent that she was looking. She was trying to keep her under guard.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, Mia's not who she was after anyway. It's Dinah. So I'm fully convinced that at any point in time, if she thought that it was possible without losing Dinah, she would have this girl killed without hesitation because she's dead weight.
Well, and that was a cool moment from, I think it was the second issue, when Mia and Dinah first arrive on the island, one of the Amazons makes comments about her being impure and being unclean, and Dinah just kicks her butt. Mm-hmm. It's like, I consider this girl to be a daughter, and you have insulted her. I was like, bam! I was like, outstanding.
It was great.
Yeah,
it's really great. And that's what's been so great, and that's what I like about Wittick's writing. He's really good at making strong moments where they need to be. I'm with you. I don't get the hatred for this guy's writing.
And it's funny throughout all, because you mentioned Indiana Jones, and I completely agree with you with the whole da 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 kind of going through my head as they're running away. You can kind of almost hear Ollie saying, "Jock, start the plane, Jock."
Which totally fits Ollie.
Yeah.
He is that type of character, and it is that same scene. If it was Batman that was captured, should be written quite differently. That scene written with Ollie being captured that way so totally fit the character. It wasn't slapstick. It was just adventure. It was straight adventure, and that was the difference. It was humor that wasn't taken too far, and it was a nice balance.
Yeah,
I need one of those chamber pots for my classroom. Because third graders have to go to the restroom a lot. On a daily basis, I need to make that major decision whether or not there's a real need for the restroom or an excuse to play hopscotch in the hallway. So, my students need to be aware that I may adopt the Granny Goodness method of instruction.
I'm not even going to comment. I'm just going to let that one go.
But when they go off the cliff, it was also part Return of the Jedi for me, with the whole skiff sequence on Tatooine. Because they had the boat waiting there, and they went to go pick up Dinah and Mia at that point. It was great. It totally worked for me. Ollie and Connor make it to the boat and shoot off the signal. And Dinah wants to know what was going on, and I like that. She didn't immediately leave. Why Ollie? Why did they take Ollie? We see that Goodness wanted Dinah. His enemies wanted him, and she needed to make that bargain in order to pull off her plans. And I knew it was when the arrow went off in that particular issue, because Ollie was off camera for that brief moment. I'm like, okay, this is when they took him. I was glad to kind of see that, though, that they expanded upon that. Plus, the everyman nod to his lack of sexual prowess was funny. He couldn't keep the act up when he was supposed to portray the ultimate ladies' man. Yeah. Kudos to the art team for drawing a really sexy Dinah in those scenes.
Those are very good art. That was some very good artwork.
I mean, she is the complete package.
Yeah.
She is a strong mind. She's drop-dead sexy. And that's what's great about the character. She's not a one-trick pony. She's a very beautiful woman. You can totally see why a man like Ollie would be captivated by her, and why through all these years, even though he was your ultimate ladies' man, he kept coming back to her. Because she is that something special, not just because of the killer looks, but because of the fact that she's got a strong mind, she's very independent, and she has something to offer. And it was nice to see in this issue how well she carried herself, because it was very Birds of Prey, and it showed a good understanding of her character.
it was funny with the that wedding special where they actually show when she actually stabs and kills every man. Mm-hmm. The cool moment that I didn't catch the first time going through, she shows up, and goes up to him and gives him a kiss, and she pulls back, goes, "Ali," right as he attacks her. Right there, she noticed from that kiss, and I was like, "Man, that is," I was like, "Damn, that's cool."
Yeah, it was really nice because the amount of years they've known each other, it makes sense that every man might be good, but he's not that good.
Yeah, he's not Ali.
Right.
Yeah.
Dinah escapes during the explanation, and that was a neat little bit, too. Every man was supposed to infiltrate the JLA. Dinah was supposed to train the Furies, and Granny reveals herself as Desaad comes forward. I'll talk more at the end of issue 4 of my thoughts about these moments, because there's more I kind of want to expand upon here with what's going on with Desaad and Granny. I loved the emotional reunion with Dinah and Ali. I was surprised and glad that this only took a few issues. I figured they were going to stretch this out a little farther, but the pacing was really well done on this. I am a sap for the emotional connection between these two characters. The part where she knew in her heart, and you're kind of talking about this right now, that he wasn't dead because it didn't feel the same. When he died, that there was something in her heart.
There's something more to this than just... two people. There's a connection of their souls.
And you want to believe
and I'd love that.
Yeah.
I was like, man...
I get sappy for that stuff, but I love it. It's that emotional. You want to believe that that's real, and there's that something there. The new uniform and the funny reference to using Connor's underwear. The family's back together again. And it just these moments I so totally needed because it was such an intense build in the first 3 issues to where things went. And I'm just kind of like, I didn't see it coming. I didn't believe it was coming. No. I had seen the teaser to issue 4, and I didn't see where this was heading.
Yeah, I know. I was reading those pages going, man, this is awesome. I'm flipping through that. I loved that banter. I just love the way I could see my family on that boat having those conversations. I could see... just hanging out with your buddies, cruising. You pop the nitrous, and and you're running away from the mascara top speed. You're like, yeah, we did it, all right. The music's playing, the tunes are cranking, and then I was like, what the hell just happened? Oh.
And leading up to it, it's Ollie's loud with his feelings, because he's so emotionally joyed to be with his family, and we see a contrast to that in issue 4. He got shot from out of nowhere. This came out of the sky, out of nowhere. What a cliffhanger. The way it was built up, it was very realistic to me. It wasn't foreshadowed. And I really, it was one of those moments where I'm just kind of like, no.
Dude,
I cared so much when it happened. I'm like, what? No, this can't happen.
Yeah, I was sitting there going, I literally was speechless. I was like, stymied and stunned. I was just like, oh God, no. Oh, no, man, come on, don't do this. And you saw the teasers. We knew something. I saw the the teasers for the next issue, the cover. So I should have seen it. I should have seen it coming. But I was just so caught up in the joy of the moment. Then that sharp contrast.
I wasn't sure. That was where I got to be honest with you. The end of issue 3, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like what's gonna happen in issue 4. I was really uncomfortable at the end. Because I really enjoyed issue 3 so much, and issue 1, 2, and 3 really leading up to this and that whole drama, and the relationship between the two. I'm like, oh, because I read Connor's issues as Green Arrow, so I got to read him as a solo star in his own book. So I have an attachment to him. I really like him as a character. So I'm kind of like, what are they? And then you read the miniseries,
the Dragon,
Dragon's Blood, which is good. I really enjoyed that miniseries as well. So I'm like, oh, what are they doing here? This is a great character. So. We get to issue 4, and it really was a gripping one because of that. Ollie is in panic. This is his son, and I liked the contrast between himself and Dinah. Dinah is the leader of the JLA. She is his wife, and she cares just as much, but is also able to keep it together and be strong. Ollie has always been the more emotionally charged. Leap into the situation, often without thinking about consequences. It's why he always had trouble staying faithful.
Also, you're talking about the emotional response, Maya's emotional response. I was like, oh my God. When I was reading those two, I was eating it up because, yes, this makes sense. Yes, Ali is a superhero. He's been through the worst, but this is his son. Maya, she's been through so much garbage in her life, so much hard times, to see Connor go down.
And major crush on Connor.
Oh yeah, and she still does, and but it's not just he was her rock when she first had all her problems. When she first announced she was HIV positive, when she first started hanging with Ollie, he was the rock that kept her going. He was that strong, and now he's lying on the boat. dying.
And
I
this
was
is-
like, wow.
And this is where a family can work in comics. A lot of times there's a question about whether or not you can marry characters and things like that. And I'm not, commenting negatively one way or another about, different philosophies on that. It's more so that I think when there's storytelling reasons to put people together as a family, you can create interesting storytelling. If you don't have those storytelling reasons, it kind of goes nowhere. But in this particular case, there's really some strong storytelling reasons to put these characters together, to have them react as a family, to advance Ollie in a way that he was ready to be advanced, and really kind of do something neat with all of them. And it's amazing how interesting these characters all are as a group together. So I'm already rooting for a return of Connor.
Yeah, I'm already looking for, hey, maybe they could do this. What about, Nanda Parbat?
Send him the Wizard.
Yeah.
If I only...
Dude, that's wrong. Hold on, just let me state that was you, not me. That was Sean.
I only had a brain.
Oh, that's wrong, man. That's the line I won't cross.
Oh, well, I did. It's interesting in this time of crisis that even though he has matured, Ollie is reacting heavily, wanting to do something when he is powerless. Dinah is organizing things, and Maya goes to get that first aid kit. They're trying to stabilize and save his life, and I really liked the contrast between the characters as far as who was doing what, who was organizing what, and why, and it was based on where they were emotionally at the time. It was real to me. It wasn't everybody just kind of following directions and doing what they're supposed to. It was really... You saw a contrast between who they were, and I like that. They can't get outside help due to being jammed. They can't go back to the island. And just totally emotionally driven here. Ollie ultimately saves the day. He knows Clark can hear, and this is the moment I loved. He is desperate. This is his son. Appeal to the man who was there at his own death, for example, and hope that he can race into action to save the day for his boy. This is the man who can hear him across the world and get to him the fastest. I geeked out at this. Superman Returns, the 1 year later Superman arc, explored through Up, and Away that Superman can hear everything and often needs to focus himself in order to tune other things out. Ollie used this. I loved this. It was great.
Dude, man, big time geek, and especially just the explanation. He's sitting there, Clark. Yeah. And it's finally that not only the scream of his name, but the fear in his voice. And it's Ollie with fear. The one person who would never have that. I was like,
I totally wrote that down too. Because he knew it was a bad situation. And I liked that we got to see that from Clark's perspective. That Clark was analyzing things as he flew.
Yeah.
Which was great to see the kind of man that Superman is. This is a man with experience. This is one of the big three. He has been through every situation you could possibly imagine. So he knew, by the time he got there, he knew that the situation was bad and that he would have to do something fast to help out. That's what makes Superman Superman. It was awesome.
Oh.
Ollie humbly says thank you as Clark takes his son to the hospital. Mercy Hospital staff are worried about further attacks until they see that the whole JLA is present. And Ollie's beside himself. These moments were cool. Ollie might have his faults as a father and a lover, but he cares. That has always been what has made him an endearing character. And is deep down that people matter to him. His mistakes matter to him. He's probably one of the most human characters in comics. In the sense that he, has the, roller coaster effect.
He is a hero, and he is a good guy, but even the best of people have their, times where they stumble, have their times where they fall. It's a hero who picks himself up, recognizes what they did was wrong, and continues on with the fight.
He's the character that goes on the roller coaster ride of life.
Yeah,
we've seen him at his highest, we've seen him at his lowest, and it is why he's one of those characters that is very easy to identify with. Like, I could see myself hanging with Ollie.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
He's that kind of guy, and it's cool. He's desperate for Hal to arrive, and when he does, he rushes him in. The most powerful weapon on the planet can surely save his son. And I love the emotion on the characters' faces. The art just hit a home run here. Ollie's panic. Roy's surprise, Hal's calm determination, Maya's head down in concern. There was a lot going on in these pages, and it really needed to be handled well to touch the hearts of the fans of both Connor and Ollie in this situation. Hal even has to yell at Ollie to get a grip. It's his best friend, but he's flipping out. But you can tell from the next panels even that Hal regrets that he had to lose his patience with his friend.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those types of situations. It's just great drama because it shows why family and friends matter. Ollie's ready to rush in, to stand with Hal to try and help his son, but Dinah has to be the one to say, you're not sterile, especially after that island captivity that he went through, and that he poses a danger to infecting his son if he goes anywhere near him. Imagine that. You're there and you're a dad with that son who you're just realizing that moment, like your whole life is flashing before your eyes. His whole life is flashing before your eyes, and you're like, I gotta be there for him. I need to step up. I'm his dad. And, you know, he's built that relationship, and to be powerless.
Add to that, you're a superhero. You've saved the Earth. You've saved the universe. How many times has Ollie stepped up and saved the day at the last minute? That one last shot takes out the bad guy, and he can't do anything. That right there is just, I was like, oh, man. And you can even see him when he's reacting with everyone when they're still around him. What are you doing here? Find it, and they're like, they're said how Aquaman's patrolling the sea. Soup's already done a couple laps around. They're looking and trying to track down who it was that fired the shot. But they're still there for Ollie. They're not going to leave him just high and dry in the hospital like that. And you could even, I was like, damn, that is just some cool superhero human writing. It was the real people behind the mask.
Not even that, though. Touching on that real people behind the mask, that's also part of the danger that they face. And I love the moments with Black Lightning and Diana, the concern over the secret identities. Diana's prepared to use her lasso if necessary to protect that. Bruce already has that covered. Winnick really knows how to handle Bruce once again. He stays in the shadows watching over things because he knows Ollie won't even notice him at the moment. He, too, lost a son when Jason died. He is understanding what Ollie is going through on a level that the others can't. And it's great writing and understanding of the role that each person plays in this universe and in how they interact with each other. Ollie is now feeling another emotion, rage. Because, like you're saying, he wants to know who did this. We've got to get who did this. And he wants them out of there, finding out who that is. He's so blind right now with the various emotions going on. It's not an issue of, being, thanking them for support or anything like that. It's like, let's settle all this. Let's find out who did this. Let's do what we do. Why aren't you doing what we do?
Yeah.
The panels with the clocks and the silence. Ollie examining the past. Time lost when he could have been more of a father. You can tell from his words, from the expression, he would kill just for a day to walk his son to school, to throw a ball around, to teach him archery, just to be a dad. Maybe even to take whatever that was that came out of the sky for his kid. Maybe not even maybe. I could see him definitely, if he had it to do over again, he would have jumped in the way of it.
I tell you right now, going through his head was, why couldn't I, I should have seen it coming. I'm waiting for those panels when he starts thinking, I should have seen it coming, I should have taken the shot. There's going to be guilt over the fact that he is fine and he is healthy. It's the oldest saying that the parent's worst nightmare is to bury their child or to see their child hurt or to see something that they're powerless to happen to their kid. And you're seeing that in spade with Ollie, not only just because this is his son, he has that guilt over the fact that he basically turned his back on him as a child. It wasn't the fact that, he didn't know the kid was around. He knew he was around. He just wasn't there for him. And now he's kicking himself over that going, why didn't I do that? I should have done that. I was a dad. I should have been a dad. I should have been a father.
He provided money for sure, but he denied that he knew the truth to even Connor, when they first met. And then a kicker, and I really felt for Roy here. Imagine finding out Ollie would looked for his son but stopped when he met you. Wow. So this is another person who's like a son to Ollie, now having to look at it and say, if he'd never met me, what would have happened? So now Roy's got, how does Ollie view me now because of all this? And what's that going to do to their relationship? Mia steps up here, and I really liked these moments. When Ollie promises to tell his son the whole truth, Mia tells him that he knew. His mother had told him the truth, and Ollie knew all along about him, and that Connor forgave him. That was just, for me, it was like, and it showed, too, that their time away alone together, those two, they learned a lot about each other, and he revealed a lot of his inner thoughts to her. I was so rooting for Connor. I was so rooting for the whole family at this point. You write this kind of drama. You connect us onto the real level and tell a story that has been told before, but on a very different, a very personal level to the characters. And I loved every moment of that because it was, we've seen these death stories before. We've seen reactions before. But this is a new twist on it. It's a different take on it because it really was personalized to these characters. And that's where it so worked for me. It wasn't cookie cutter. It added something to the mythos, and I like that.
And I like the fact that he's not really dead. Yeah, he's brain dead, but the body is still there. And is Connor's soul still there?
Finally. Hal comes out with that very emotional moment that you're talking about, and it made me mad, but mad in a good way, if that makes sense, because I was angry. I was angry at the shooter. I want to see Ollie step up and find him. I want to see what's going to happen. That's going to be some great storytelling. To see what the reaction is. Who did this? And why did they do this? The bullet had a toxin in it which took out Connor's brain via the bloodstream. He's brain dead. And it's... Ollie tears out of the room. I'm here, Connor. You hear me. Your daddy's right here. Dinah looks on, and I could feel her heart breaking for the love of her life, seeing what he's going through. And it was powerful, the way that she was standing overlooking. It was respectful. It was meaningful. I love him as a character, Connor. I enjoyed his tenure as Green Arrow. I thought this was a strong way to make a statement with the character, though. And like you said, it leaves open some options to do something to bring him back if we need to.
Well, I don't think it's, this story isn't over yet. It's still going on. And you think about when Ollie died before, they actually showed his soul up in heaven. Mm-hmm. When his body was recreated, that whole first arc of the last series of Quiver, it was the shell that down there didn't have a human soul. So you got to ask yourself, is Connor's soul still there? They've dealt with this before. They're going to bring it back again. I don't know how they're going to bring him back, but I say before the end of this story arc, I think we're going to see him back immediately. I don't think this is going to be something that's going to wait years on end to bring him back. We're going to see him come back.
With that teaser for where Jeff Johns' arc's going for Green Lantern.
Oh, no. No way. I hope not.
That's what I'm wondering if... I'm with you. I want to see him back.
I hope not. And... Yeah.
But I mean, my question is he gone for good? Or is this more sleight of hand? Because what did Desaad and Granny mean when they said they were not done with the family? Does it tie into this? Because they said they weren't done with this particular family.
My guess was when they shot Connor.
But I mean...
That's how I took it. That when she's like, oh, we're not done with the Arrow family. Crack, and that's the shot taken.
But I still take it as... It almost seems too small. Okay, yeah, they killed him, but... What? It seems to me like there's more to it. That doesn't fit. It's too small.
See, yeah, I don't know. And it could also be the same way they're going to bring back.
I can see what you're saying. Yeah. But I mean, do you think it's big enough in scale?
Well, here's the thing. You add to the fact that the shooter that shot Connor is the same one who shot Trickster. And you have now two people who will come back throughout this whole process.
The second shooter.
Right. It's the second shooter, dude. I tell you, I am convinced now more than ever that is the same shooter, that Granny is the one who shot Trickster for some reason. There's something they're doing to Piper, and now the Arrow family is mixed in with that.
There are times when you make me in awe, when you don't come like the Nostradamus of this podcast. And then there's time when complete nonsense comes out of your mouth.
I'm serious. All kidding aside, all joking aside, I honestly think there's something. Those two deaths are connected, and they're tied together. Nuts. I'm serious.
Deadshot killed Trix.
I don't think so. Now, this was something that I was like, oh my god, this is feeding the conspiracy. We're going to probably see another person, and it's that same funky shot out of nowhere.
A shot that comes out of the sky. You think a shot that came out of the sky? You're nuts.
It was Granny. It's something with a dark side. It's this whole
I think Vanilla Coke has a bizarre chemical in it that's messing with your brain.
Dude, I'm serious. No kidding, no joking, 100% straight serious.
I'm serious too. I think that there's some chemical that's messing with your brain.
No, there's something more going on with this. And I
agree with you that there's something more going on with this. I completely disagree with you that's connected in way, shape, or form with the Trickster. I agree with that. I will say that. You and I are totally in sync. I think that it's not big enough. And honestly, if this is all it is, I would be sorely disappointed, but when it hasn't disappointed me with that. There's usually a bigger story going on. This was done for a reason. There's a lot that's going to come from this in a lot of different ways. We're going to see some great emotional drama out of this. We're going to see how he deals with death. We're going to see, who this shooter is, how it's not related. Let's go go to some listener comments. We got Steven here from the Just Another Fanboy podcast. I'm loving the new series. I think Judd Winnick is firing on all cylinders, and the art is amazing. Issue number 4 was so good, it had me feeling a little misty by the end of it, and that just doesn't happen too often in a comic book. I did have some reservations going into this because I was enjoying the previous Green Arrow series, but this new one is just so much better. The writing feels very personal to me, even with the Amazons, and the art just has a Mike Allred feel to it, which has me feeling all good inside. And I gotta agree with him, it does have a Mike Allred feel to it, and I like that. I wasn't thinking that at first, but the second he said it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally get what he's saying there. Remember from Madman?
Oh, okay. Okay.
And yeah. I can see that vibe there, too. It's kind of got its own little flavor, too, but I definitely get the feel, and I love Mike Allred's art.
It was funny. I kind of got a Freddie Williams feel to it when I was kind of like...
You can see a little of that.
Yeah.
I think to me it's a little more... I agree with him. I'm kind of more with him. It's a little more Mike Allred. You know, he makes an interesting question, though. He says he feels this is better than the old series. Where are you at on that? I mean, to me, I guess I'm reading it kind of like as a continuation. Like the old series never ended. This is the same series. But I think that this wouldn't be as good as it was if the old series hadn't developed the family so well. So that's why I guess I'm taking it as a continuation. I definitely think that it's been a nice progression, and I think this is the next stage. So I see what he's saying. Yeah, it definitely has taken a turn.
Yeah, this is the next chapter of the story. It's not better, not worse. It's just the continuation of what I enjoy, what I want to see. You know, because you're talking about the Arrow family. I really like that. And I saw that building throughout. Yeah, with Ollie and with Ollie and Mia, and then you got throwing in Black Canary in it, and Connor coming into the picture, and it was just like a nice chugga, and I like that, and it's the continuation of that, so I can't say this is better, but it's still just goodness that I'm enjoying.
I get what he's saying, though. It did step up for me. Because that whole adventure aspect of the beginning, the band getting back together and all that, I don't know, there was something about it. This just had a moment that, it didn't miss a moment. It didn't miss a beat. There wasn't wasted panels, so to speak. I'm not saying the old series had that. I'm just saying it just seemed like a very polished feel to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
So,
I understand. But
I really enjoyed it. Dark Knight number 13 says, it's a great start to this series. I'm interested to see where this is going and whose ass Ollie gets to kick to find out what happened to Connor. I'm with him on that.
Yeah.
Bookbag says, Black Canary and Green Arrow, what can I say? But I think it's one of the funniest, most true-to-life relationships in the DC universe that was explored in more detail. The story up to now has been good, but issue 4, awesome. The reaction of Ollie to Connor's shooting is one of, if not the most touching events I've read in comic book history. I was also stunned at the reaction of the two girls, which was well told. I really look forward to how they handle Connor's death. All in all, I prefer this to the Green Arrow series. Black Canary is also a stronger character than she has ever been before. I think this is more realistic, as a less strong character wouldn't be able to keep Ollie in line and also lead the JLA. I think, this is another kudos to Gail Simone. I think what she did, and Chuck Dixon, when he started Birds of Prey and Gail Simone took it over, I think we've seen an evolution of her as a character to the point where she is this type of character now that is far more interesting to read. Series.
Yeah, she's worthy of being the chairperson for the JLA. This is who she is. She is that strong superhero. She's not the sidekick. She's not the Green Arrow's girlfriend. She's not the also ran. She is a hero of her own rights. She is a butt kicker, and yeah, you gotta love just. I like the fact that she's not supporting character in Green Arrow's title. It's a co-title. So each character is as equally important. I like that. That is something, a strength this one has over the previous one.
Well, and the name just isn't there to be there.
Right, yeah. It's
very much these two together and how they react and how they deal with things. This is from Homer Jedi. Issues 3 and 4. I guess, to begin with, I love the artwork. That was the sole reason this title has been added to my hold file. I've never been a fan of Judd Winnick's writing, but I am really getting into this series. The concept of Dinah being able to be the Furies instructor makes sense. For the Amazons, if they could not get Diana, then why not go to the next more qualified person? I don't believe Ollie and Dinah have seen the last of Granny Goodness or Desaad, but I'm not sure if they are behind the attack on Connor. Granny hints at having people on the inside to thin the herd. Does this mean that the people in the government are imposters on any superhero teams, or something entirely different? What she was hinting at and I'll continue his comment in a second, she was hinting at that they wanted every man to be that inside man in the JLA.
The way I took it is, yes, losing Everyman lost that, but they had somebody else planted. They had other agents already planted and already infiltrated. Yes, Everyman was a stick to them that it hurt, but they weren't out of the game yet. They still had more agents. And I agree. I think there's somebody else along the lines of, there's somebody else involved in this.
Well, I could see in the government, but I don't see who do you think on the JLA right now is.
I don't know if it's on the JLA itself or if it's a superhero. There is some superhero out there who I think is connected to Granny. And I think it's going to be one of those things come the final crisis. We're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe they turned so and so.
Well, they were saying though that the big reason why they lost Everyman, why that was a big problem, is that they were putting him in there to thin the herd. They wanted him to.
But if you read some of the conversations that Granny and Desaad had,
I read all of them.
But yeah, just
and
she says how it hurt them, but they weren't out of the game yet. They have other agents.
Well, she didn't say that, they didn't say that they had other agents.
I could have swore I read she said she had other agents in place.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull this out to look at this. Desaad shows up and he says, "It's all right, but do you think she will learn the whole truth?" Which part, Desaad? That not only did we want her skinny ass on the rock training the Furies, but that we also wanted every man posing as Green Arrow to infiltrate and destroy the damn community of metahumans from within. Or do you mean just the truth about me? And he says, all of the above, really. They'll all learn the truth soon enough. And we have enough people on the inside to thin the herd. But do you take that as on the inside of the government or as the inside of the superhero community?
I took it as both.
Really?
I took it that there's some superheroes out there, or at least a superhero out there, who is really in cahoots with Granny and Darkseid. And there's also government people that are in cahoots with them. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, I actually kind of like mysteries like this, so I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Because this is the kind of drama I don't want to know right now. Right. I want these little threads thrown out there. So yeah, I guess I could see that too. It's interesting. It's kind of changing my thoughts about that. It actually makes it more interesting.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so. I don't know who it's going to be, and I don't think it's going to be like, Wonder Woman or some big name, but it's going to be a hero that we all know that we're not going to see coming.
Mm-hmm. And some reason why that hero would be under Granny's control. Or maybe swapped out.
Well, maybe swapped out, maybe, just the more of the Granny goodness, trickery that she does, the mind control or not mind control, brainwashing type, style that is Granny.
Connor was, however, without a doubt, the target of the cloaked ship, person, whatever it was. So, were they trying to hurt Ollie through Connor? Or did Connor make any enemies during his run of the Green Arrow title who would have that capability? Ollie calling for Clark for help. I cannot recall seeing that handled in that style before, but it made sense. This issue, number 4, was one of the best I have read in a long, long time. I would rank it up there with The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man. Cannot remember the exact title, but issue 248, I think, where Spider-Man reveals his identity to a boy with cancer. It's been a long while since I've read it. The last page, next to actually losing someone you care about, I do not believe there is a stronger emotion than feeling helpless while your child lays hurting. Ollie's remark, "Daddy's right here," sent chills up my spine. If any of you are fathers and you have probably uttered these words or something similar when your own child has been hurt, sick, or heaven forbid, something worse. How long will Connor remain in a brain-dead comatose state? I don't know. But I gave up long ago on the meaning of death in comics, so I'm confident he will be back at some point. As for where I would like this series to go, I'm not sure, but I hope the focus remains on the Green Arrow-Black Canary relationship. The past couple of issues we've seen Green Arrow's family. How about Green Arrow going on a lunch date with Dinah, Barbara, and some of the Birds of Prey? I recently saw a preview of an upcoming Batman and the Outsiders where it is hinted that Green Arrow might be joining. Will this cause tension between our two heroes? Anyway, this post has gone on long enough already, and I'm just going to hush up now. Those were my thoughts. Everyone have a good week and fun comic book reading. That's from Homer Jedi again. Really some great comments. And it was one thing that was interesting to see is that he's someone who hasn't previously been a Winnick fan, but he's enjoying this series so far.
Interesting comment he had about where this is going to go with the two of them and maybe see them go out on a date. The fact they're not married. It wasn't Ollie who said I do. It was Everyman who said I do. So those two aren't actually married right now. Are they going to go through the wedding? Is Ollie going to say, no, I want Connor by my side when we get married? What's going to happen there?
Well, I think that's supposed to be what the next issue is supposed to deal with, too.
Yeah.
Where they're at this point. Real interesting. And I like this. This is nothing ever works clean for these poor characters.
I know.
But that's what I like about them, because that's life. Things just don't work out always. And you want to believe that you're going to persevere like the characters do in comics. And that's what's fun to read about them, is to see how they react to these situations. And in some way, when they fail, yell for them to succeed. And when they succeed, you want to strive to be like that. And that's where the comics are so great, because they take you through that emotional drama. I love this. This is awesome.
It's funny with me. I'll talk to my folks about comics sometimes, and Green Arrow, Winnick's writing is one of the ones I talk about. One, because Mom knows who Judd Winnick is through the real world and through everything that happened there with him, with Pedro and all that. Because I talked a lot about that with Mom, and just I told her about this story and just everything that's going on, just the emotion this guy has been through, these characters have been through. It's weird that I can talk to a complete non-comic book reader about what's going on and like, wow, that's kind of neat. Wow. This is some serious gripping writing, and it's just amazing, literature.
That's a great way to put it. I actually wish this had gotten an article very similar when Maya's reveal that she had AIDS.
Yeah.
I wish this had gotten another article, because I think this is another great example of a great comic book story that I think should be read by people, just to show that human drama and emotion and how comics are able to handle that so well. He had a great comment there, because you guys actually changed how I was viewing some of this. And actually have added this whole little twist to what's going on with Granny Goodness and Desaad, because I'm liking this dark side, whole apocalypse stuff that's going on in the universe right now, that they seem to be popping up in multiple titles, and that there's a whole little mystery going on behind the scenes as to how much they're actually doing and what it's going to mean to the universe as a whole. This is fun.
Yeah, this is definitely just a great ride that we're on, that I'm so glad that when Green Arrow ended, I wasn't scared because I found out Judd was going to continue writing, but I was like, I loved Green Arrow so much. I was like, man, I don't want Green Arrow to end. I want my title to continue. And I'm so glad that it's not only continued, but it's, grown and it's changed. And yeah, you can say even better. I won't argue with anyone who says this is better than the original, than the previous series. So,
but I think you needed the previous series to get to this point too. I'm with you. And I'm not contradicting in any way what you're saying. I'm totally agreeing with you. I think this has stepped it up another notch because of the foundation that was built in the previous series.
And I tell you, because we got a couple of people who said they're jumping on to Green Arrow now. I will 100% recommend, picking up the trades of the previous Green Arrow stuff, just so you can see this buildup of this Arrow family.
In fairness, though, I will say this too:
you don't need it.
No, you could honestly, if you want to make this your launching point to explore Green Arrows, we're 4 issues in. Very easy to jump on board this. If you didn't like the previous series, this is something different. It's got a very different flavor with these two characters playing off each other. This is very much Dinah from Birds of Prey. So I would say any fan who enjoyed her in Birds of Prey, but you never really jumped on board Green Arrow, or maybe you left Green Arrow, but you were a Birds of Prey fan, you'll feel right at home with her character in this series. He did his homework in understanding who she is and how she has evolved in the universe. So there is that evolution of that character that is present here. This is very much of a continuation of her story from Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
And it felt very good to me to see that same strong character that we saw in so many great trades and so many great stories from Gail Simone. And that's important to me. When I get attached to a character and another writer starts writing that character, it's very important to me that they don't throw out the elements that have made that character so good under the tenure of another writer. It's very hard to keep that consistency, but when people do that, and when they then continue to evolve that character, that means something to me. That's when I say kudos, and I say kudos right here because I really like her in this series. She's a character I care about a great deal.
And I tell you, part of me would like to see Ollie with the Outsiders. Part of me wouldn't. Just because I can kind of understand, he goes a little bit over the edge because of Connor and everything that's happened. But I still don't want him to go the darker side. Because the Outsiders...
Maybe he's the conscience of the team, though.
Yes.
See, I'm looking at that as a different way.
It could be.
You bring him on board, he might be the conscience of the team. So I'm not. I guess I'm seeing different options with him.
See, that's why I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do with him. Part of me wants to because I like Ollie as a character.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to, and I do like the interaction of Ollie and Batman because Ollie isn't intimidated by Batman. He doesn't. The scary bat doesn't scare him.
Right.
You know, he'll call him out on stuff, and I kind of want to see that.
That's where I'm like kind of.
Yeah.
I would like to read that regularly. And it'd be interesting to see these two in this book juggle their relationship based on the fact that she's leading the JLA, he's on the Outsiders, they're in two very different teams. The reality of having different jobs and how that affects a marriage, in that sense. And because that's very real world too. Especially
in this, superhero community, what you got to do, and who knows what's going to happen with Mia if she's
daughter.
Yeah, she's a daughter, but those two are on different things. Where's she going to be?
Well, but you've got to take a look at that, and you've got to go. It's a very real. Nowadays, usually both parents are working.
Yeah.
If people are lucky enough that they can financially support that, but this is more of a real story. Parents having two different jobs. Two different superhero teams, yes, but that's two different full-time jobs, and they're going to have to juggle that in a way that people have to in the real world. And it provides some interesting storytelling that people can latch onto and relate to, and how they react to each other and how they try to make this work in this type of world. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Big time.
It's some interesting possibilities. This one's from Wood. Just read the first 4 issues this weekend and enjoyed them quite a bit. I wasn't familiar with Cliff's work, but the art generally worked well. I always thought that Winnick was underappreciated, and the writing on this book feels like a very comfortable pair of jeans. Winnick gets Ollie and Dinah, so he doesn't have to stray out of his comfort zone to tell good stories. Although I was a little put off as a continuity wonk about the whole Amazon's attack-laden focus of the first arc, since Amazon's attack has been done for a bit, I thought the premise was solid. Dinah is now so universally known as a badass that an island of immortal female warriors wants her to train them. Wow. We got to see the full spectrum of Ollie's characterization. 1 minute he's running buck naked, cracking jokes with his life on the line. The next he's enraged as a laser, focused on the bitter realities of the world as he screams for help for Connor. We got a little nod to Superman and his omnipotence. All too often post-crisis we forget that Supes really should be able to handle just about anything like this, and what better use of his powers than to single out the cries of a teammate in dire need. All in all, I'm happy to be on board and ready for a long run of the series. The Amazon's attack premise, Amazon's attack is over in the war. The war was over. But the Granny Goodness stuff was actually, at the end, that was like a prelude to what she's doing, which is still going on right now in Countdown, which is running concurrently with this. So it was an interesting way to use them, and having her to train new Furies for Apocalypse. And that's the part we're forgetting here. Granny's building Furies for Apocalypse. And using the Amazons as kind of a smokescreen to the whole thing.
I like...
Because they are Amazons.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever said this, but I really like the fact that they're calling them Furies. Granted, that's the old, very long history of Granny. That's what her crew was. But it's also very appropriate for, the Greek, centric Amazons. That it's a reason why no one would suspect that this is an Athena. Because it would make sense that Athena would have her Furies, would have this elite guard of Amazons, and would say, hey, I'm not just going to call them the Honor Guard, I'm going to call them the Furies. Because they have such a strong tie into, Greek mythos that I like that. And it's one of those moments where it makes sense. And it keeps the smoke screen of that Granny is posing as Athena. It's not something that, Granny Goodness has her Furies. Well, also, it wouldn't be, normal and logical to think that Athena would create some Furies of her own.
This is from Supermore. I love Green Arrow Black Canary. Issue number 4 had a powerful moment, Ollie calling out Clark's name. When I read that part, I got chills. Winnick really is writing a nice book. Fun, adventurous, emotional, and Chang's art just hit the spot with a true comics look and feel. Nice coloring with a simple but detailed drawn book. It's from Barry Jordan. I'm a huge fan of both characters. Longtime supporter of Judd Winnick's work. I think Green Arrow Black Canary is among his best work at DC. Literally something for everyone. Humor, action, sex appeal. He draws Dinah so well. While I'm not a fan of Connor Hawke, I found the scenes in the most recent issue very touching. Now I can't wait for Amanda Connor's issue on this book. This goes right behind Green Lantern and Flash. Who would have guessed? At the top of my DC pile every month. From Darth Dad. Haven't read issue 4 yet, but I love the first 3 issues, as well as all of the wedding tie-ins. My only complaint is that I didn't really see the point in ending the last series just to add Black Canary's name to the title. I realize that issue 1 sell better than most, but this feels so much like the previous series anyway that I didn't really need to see a restart. Legion of the Superheroes didn't restart 1001 years later just because it became Supergirl and the Legion. Other than that minor issue, great series. I love the art from Dr. 13's backup stories and the Tales of the Unexpected miniseries, and he certainly carried that through to this series. I love the subtle tie-ins to some of the broader things that are going on in the DC Universe right now, and there are some nice touches that just let you know that this story is definitely part of a larger universe. The ending of issue 3 was definitely dramatic, and I'm curious to see what will happen to Ollie's world. I only just recently read Ollie's Resurrection in Kevin Smith's Quiver story, and while I don't think it was as well told as the Green Lantern Rebirth was, this was still a compelling resurrection story, and I'm definitely starting to build an appreciation of the character's history. What did you think about it being in issue 1? I understand why they did it, too.
Yeah.
It's a selling point. I am glad that they added Black Canary to the title, because I think she is a character that at this point has earned that spotlight.
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely. And I kind of like the fact that it's starting over with a number 1. In a way, it's accenting that there is a change in status. There is something different going on. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see Ollie and the crew in Star City as much. We may see them in somewhere else. I'm not sure where we're going to see them based out of, but I wouldn't be surprised by this. You know, if you think about just everything that's going on with Connor, maybe Star City won't have the best hospital for him. Maybe he'll have to go somewhere else where there's a better hospital for Connor, or I don't know. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I wouldn't be surprised. Now, granted, Star City is his city, and I can understand.
I definitely want to see that presence in this.
You know, I can understand why they would go back to it. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but the fact that they did...
But will that work for her being on the JLA?
Right,
will that work if he is going to be a part of the Outsiders permanently? I see what you're saying. That may not be... I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be up... I guess at first I was going to say, no, I don't want to see that, but I guess if there's a storytelling reason, they could sell me on it.
Here's one thing I was thinking would be kind of neat, is Washington, D.C., have them actually based out of Washington because they need to keep Connor there. Plus, that'll keep Dinah closer to the JLA headquarters, which is right there. And DC does have I don't know of a superhero that operates in Washington D.C. Do you?
I don't want to see Ollie operate in Washington D.C. though. I really don't. I see what you're saying, though, like if we put him back into politics and...
Well, not even in politics, just the fact that he has that background in politics, so he understands the underbelly of politics, but also D.C. has some rough and tough neighborhoods in the surrounding areas. So it could have the same type of Star City type of feel.
Yeah, but I don't see him abandoned after everything he went through to help bring back Star City and its economic status, to abandon Star City to go to a new city. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel right to me. I'm just offering it. I'm not saying I'm not saying that they wouldn't do that. I'm not saying that it'd be wrong if they did. I guess I'm really attached to the whole Star City concept, the same way I would be for the Flash.
And just like Batman with Gotham, I completely understand that. And I wouldn't say that he has to do this, or but I'm just saying. Maybe a little twist or something different. Or maybe even until Connor is back to normal. Maybe they do a little change of scenery or something. But this is a continuation of the previous title, but it is something different. It is something dramatically different, and that's what I'm just saying. I'm wondering if they're going to continue with the dramatic difference by changing a city. If they're going to just put him back in Star City, which would be wonderful, which I'm not even complaining, if it would happen. I'm just saying I wonder if they're going to continue on with these big and broad changes in the Arrow family.
And because he's married now, that
right.
adds a different twist to it.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I don't know. I mean, they've changed locations of heroes before for various storytelling reasons. I would have to read. It's hard for me to comment right now
without reading it. Yeah,
right. I'd have to see how it was handled. I do have a lot of confidence in Winnick, though, and how he's going with this series. And there's a big plan here. So right now, I'm just going to kind of sit back and trust and enjoy the ride. So
yeah.
So you're right. If there was a change there, would I be against it? No. I could go with it if there was. My preference would be Star City right now, but that's also because I haven't read how he would handle it if he does go that route. So it's kind of hard to comment. It's from Darth Kramer. I can't really add anything that hasn't been said so far, but I'm just glad that the quality is back in this title. Green Arrow has consistently been one of my favorite books, but the last couple of arcs post 1 year later were significantly lacking in my opinion. So much that I was tempted not even to pick up the new title. But I gave Green Arrow and Black Canary a shot, and I'm glad I did. And I really love how well Cliff, and it's Chiang, is it Chang?
I think so.
But I feel like the I keep wanting to pronounce something with it. So if I'm butchering it, I apologize. I've actually skipped it a lot. I actually cheated through a lot of these posts. I've actually skipped it and just said the art. And it's only because I don't want to keep butchering his name 95 times. But I think that his art complements Judd Winnick's writing, is what he's saying here. And I agree with it. I really think it goes really well. This is a nice one. As much as I enjoyed Scott McDaniel's art, I'm also enjoying this for the same reason. I think it does complement the writing. And it does feel like a team that's putting together this book.
In a way, it does help the fact that accent the fact that this is a new step and a new change in Ali and the Arrow family by having it have a different look to it. So I kind of like it. At first I was upset, but now I do like the fact that they did change the art team.
Well, and like he's saying too here, I think it's interesting because I don't have that. I've always liked Winnick's writing, so it's hard for me to comment when there's a lot of people that don't like his writing and they have issues with him. It's interesting to hear somebody comment who didn't like the 1 year later arcs that Winnick wrote as much and thought that to the point where he was ready to drop the series and didn't want to jump on board this series. I think it's interesting for somebody like that to say, hey, if you felt that way, this is how I felt. I actually really like this new series. It feels fresh. It's different. I'm enjoying it. So that's actually a great comment for maybe somebody who was like, well, I don't know if I want to try this because I really didn't like what Winnick was doing before. So maybe this might give somebody an incentive to try it out. Because I can't comment on that because I liked his stuff. So it's interesting to get that different perspective. And that's what I like about forum comments. This is where I kind of geek out about honest comments. People kind of come in and say, hey, I didn't like this stuff. I know you guys might have, but this was worth trying for me, and I'm glad I did. It was something different and not what I expected. So glad to hear that. And there was one who actually tried it for the art. Yeah. And actually found that they found something in the writing. So cool. It's a great book.
I know. Yeah. It's going to keep getting better, or just continue with the goodness that is, Green Arrow.
Jim, let's go to a few listener emails, and then we'll do some Countdown Arena.
Okay.
Jim, this first email is from Rick Croxton. It's Croxton. I am a new fan of your podcast. As with all podcasts I listen to, I start from the beginning, and I like what I heard. My job is very boring, and I use podcasts to pass the time. Wednesday night, I listened to all of episode 25. Excellent work. I thought you might want a Night Owl art that I got from Dave Givens and colored by a friend of mine. You are welcome to post it on your site if you want. Keep up the good work. You have a fan for life. And that is from Rick Croxton, who's Pulp Reader on the forums. And thank you very much for that. I will definitely add that to the website. It's a very beautiful looking piece of artwork involving our Night Owl.
Yeah,
it looks
that
really
was cool.
good. So that'll be up in the sketches section on the site. So thanks for adding that. We got a real good question from Jason Page, and one that I feel very bad about. He goes, Sean, just curious if you guys were going to go back and finish the Seven Soldiers of Victory review. I don't remember you guys going past the first trade, and I know you guys are extremely busy with so much other material, but I was just curious. I wanted to say that I really enjoyed the Gail Simone interview, and you guys really kicked ass on that one. Keep up the good work. Take care, Jason. And Jason is part of the Fanboy Face-Off podcast. That's his podcast out there. If you haven't listened to that, definitely check it out. It's really been an issue of just what he's saying. We've been so busy. It's not that we've abandoned it. What I want to do is sometime over the next few weeks go back and finish off the second half of that first trade, and then bi-monthly do the whole second trade, skip a month, go back and do the whole third trade. It's really that there's so much going on at DC right now. We've had other opportunities like interviews and things that just we couldn't pass up. And plus we wanted to get our listener guests on. We had the opportunity with the Exterminators. Yeah. We're trying to get together with Darth Kramer, and do the Legion that we were supposed to do with him, and then get our third contest winner on. Those got to come first. So yes, we're gonna finish off the first trade. We're gonna skip a month, then we're gonna come back and do the second trade. Skip a month, do the third trade. We're gonna fit them in.
We'll get them in there eventually.
Yeah, I didn't intend for this to happen. It was one of those things where over planning. There's always so much to talk about.
Best laid plans of mice and men.
I'm glad he asked,
go
though.
astray.
Yeah, I am glad he asked.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely, yes, we are not abandoning it. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Like we had planned to do already Batman Begins and Superman Doomsday. We are still going to do those as well. It's just a matter of fitting them in when we can.
Yeah.
So anything that we said we're going to do, we're going to get to. It's just when.
Yeah.
And this is nice because we haven't really done much with Green Arrow on the show, so I'm glad we had an opportunity to talk about this character. So it's really trying to balance out and talk about characters that we haven't talked about in a while, while trying to follow things like Countdown, because we want to get caught up on Countdown, so that way when Final Crisis hits, we can be right on Final Crisis as it comes out. And that'll be a monthly series. I don't know if you saw it, actually, just to be on that tangent, Dan DiDio said that Final Crisis is not going to be crossing over into the other books. It's going to be a self-contained mini.
Well, that's nice. That'll keep people happy.
Yeah, I think for fans who've been kind of crossovered out, it's going to be a self-contained miniseries. He said there's an issue of JLA right before it. It sounds like that's going to lead into it. But other than that, it's going to be self-contained. Makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah.
Because that would be the pivotal team book. I just thought it was interesting that he mentioned that, so that was kind of cool. Well, this is one I really wanted to get on because it's kind of funny. It's another one of those that kind of slapping us in the face, and I like these every so often.
Okay.
This one's from Carlos D. Hey guys, I've been listening to CGS for years, and I've enjoyed several of what I like to call spin-off shows. And I do have to say that after CGS, I listen to yours most often. I've been a DC fan since 82 to 83, and quite frankly, barely read anything else, but I'm trying to work on it. Have you ever seen Star Trek Generations? You know the scene where Data and Geordi are on space station looking around for clues to what happened? Data starts telling really cheesy jokes and starts laughing a little too much. He starts laughing even more and Geordi starts to get annoyed. It goes on and on and on, and Data sort of shorts out. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, I know what he's talking about. That's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys laugh way, way, way too much. I know it's fun, I know it's a little goofy, but when you guys laugh hysterically at almost everything, it makes me want to shut off my player, and sometimes I do. Just a little too much. I'm not saying make it serious or cut out the laughter, but the last thing I wish to do is turn the show into laugh-in. It also sounds a little creepy at times. I cringed the first few moments in the Gail Simone interview. Might sound like a little rude, but I'm sure I'm not the only one annoyed by it, and I don't mean to offend. Anyway, I love the episodes, I work long hours by myself in my shop, and I love comic talk, and that's from Carlos. Well, first of all, let's go back to the spin-off show thing. I think that's great. In fairness, I'm a big CGS listener. CGS is what brought me to the table here. I think one of the nice things about a lot of the podcasts that are coming out right now, including ours, is, we might have spun out of other shows, but I think we each have our own flavor. Otherwise, you all become CGS light. If that makes sense. They do their show, and they do it very well. And it's, still it's honestly my favorite podcast because, CGS was the one that kind of brought me here, so it's always like coming home when I listen to that podcast. But I'd like to think, matter of fact, I know at this point we have our own unique flavor and style, and part of it is what said he was getting annoyed about. I'm sure if people wanted to nitpick our show, that annoys you. I'm sure there's other things about our show that annoy other people, if that makes sense. You can't please everybody when you start cutting out what makes you who you are. This is about Jim and I having the same conversations we would have at any point in time about this. And I can't sit there and say, well, Jim, we got to watch doing this or we got to watch doing that because we might annoy somebody. You can't do that. Once you start doing that, you second-guess yourself, and then the show starts becoming very... If you listen to our original shows, like our first episodes, before Jim and I started getting comfortable and started being ourselves, it becomes very dry.
Yeah.
So, I get his point. I understand that. And sometimes we'd laugh a lot more on certain episodes than we do on others. But that's honestly the same topic and conversation that we would have. That's the stuff that's unscripted that just kind of comes out naturally. And so, does it annoy some people? Sure. I think he's right on that. But I think there's other people who enjoy it. And believe me, if you were to ask people if there's things about Raging Bullets that annoy them, I'm sure that if you asked every one of our listeners, they could come up with very different things that do. Yeah. There's a number of redundant phrases that we use and things like that we, you'll even hear me, I swap out redundant phrases that, I'll get...
Slick, whatnot,
well,
outstanding.
Well, Slick's kind of gone from me now. I can't remember the last time I said Slick on the show, other than when you bring it up.
True.
In fairness.
Yeah. True, I'll give you that one. Yeah, I think I've kept it alive more than anything.
But I do. I have like a battery of them. Like I get caught on a word, I get caught on a phrase, and I'll use it for a while, and then I swap it out to something else, which can get very annoying. But there's all kinds of quirks and things in our delivery and things like that, and we can't. While I appreciate the honesty, and I know you didn't mean it as a mean dig, it's just there's not a whole lot we can do about that.
Yeah, this is who we are.
And plus, part of this, honestly, part of recording this is enjoyment. There's a lot of work that goes in the show, and if we don't have fun while recording it, there's little point in doing this. Because it is to get to the point where we're actually ready to sit down and record. I had 9 pages of notes on our next review, Countdown Arena. That's just Countdown Arena. I have 9 pages of notes. There's a lot of work that went into that. Just for 4 issues to have 9 pages of notes. And I enjoy doing this. And sure, I'm not pretending I'm a stand-up comedian or anything like that. Jim and I have this nonsensical banter all the time. Yeah. This is who we are. And people who've met us, from other podcasts and people, fans who've met us at conventions, who've sat down with us for any period of time will tell you that. This is very much who we are.
And there's some times that I do wish this was a video podcast, because I'll say something just absolutely stupid, and the looks on your face will just send me over the edge, because you just got that, what the hell are you thinking look on your face, and there's some physical stuff that we can't accurately tell you guys what's going on in the room, especially like when I call Sean number 1. You guys can't see exactly what I'm doing, but you can probably guess. You can probably guess what I'm doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that you did it right now to demonstrate it to me too.
Well, I do think this is a video podcast sometimes.
I want to give a shout out, Jim, to Lord Shaper from the Cryptographic Podcast. They celebrated their 1-year anniversary, and I totally forgot to mention it on the show, and I want to correct that right now because it was just looking through emails. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to mention Damien's show. I want to give Damien and Lobo a big shout out and just say, guys, kudos to a wonderful podcast. Congratulations on your 1-year anniversary. You guys are awesome, and many, many more. And if you haven't checked out Cryptographic, please do so.
Yeah, it's an outstanding, podcast that, highly. It's one of the ones I try to listen to on a regular basis.
Great example of what I said before, where you could consider a spin-off podcast, because Damien's another one, and Lobo, both people are listening to CGS and they're part of the CGS forum community. But again, they didn't try to be CGS when they went and did their podcast. They went and did their own thing. So when you listen to Cryptographic, first episode you listen to Cryptographic, you'll see exactly what I mean. They're not like anybody. And I can say that true about any of these podcasts that have come out of that. So, and that's the nice thing about a variety of podcasts. We're all doing something a little different. Peter Rios is DC Noise. When he does episodes of DC Noise, we are covering the same comic book universe.
Yeah.
The same comic company. Peter's doing something very different than what we're doing. There's a definite reason to go listen to DC Noise, because it's a very unique approach to DC Comics. It's very different than what we do. And that's great. This is from John. This is from Jeff Carter. Not that hard of a name. I'm even butchering the easy ones. Apologize, Jeff. Hey, guys. I just wanted to say I've been a long-time listener to your podcast, and I love your upbeat attitudes and the sheer joy you take from reading comics. While I don't have time to read, plus I'm a slow reader, all of the comics you guys do, I have been mostly a DC reader since the late 80s. I really enjoyed your Exterminator show, and you really do have to read the second and third trades. It's an awesome, disgusting series, and it's among the best of the current Vertigo books. I'm really just sorry to hear that it, along with American Virgin, is being canceled. Both are fascinating reads. Sean, I am also an elementary school teacher and have given my kids comics on several occasions. They really like the Marvel Adventures titles mostly. Girls seem to really enjoy Amelia Rules, and everyone likes Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Jim, I also have something in common with you. I am a sensei. I teach karate 1 night a week at my local dojo, and take karate classes myself from my higher-ups 3 times a week. Anyway, I always love hearing your perspectives. I love the Countdown episode where you guys actually disagreed. Ha! I do have to argue, however, that I've actually skipped a lot of titles because of the Countdown branding. The fact that it has a Countdown emblem on the top of it is actually a warning for me to steer clear of it altogether. I read the first 15 issues or so of the book, and then I gave up. I thought it started off pretty strong, but quickly died. Nothing ever happened that I found the least bit interesting. Keep up the good work, Jeff Carter. That's an interesting perspective on that, because I can see why the Countdown brands on some of those titles,
Yeah.
in order to draw people into it who are reading Countdown. But here's a guy, in some of them, I do believe, those anthology books can be read actually, all of them can be read very independently of Countdown. So it's interesting to hear him say that if it had been labeled something else, like I'd be curious to see if he picked up Salvation Run or Death of the New Gods, neither of which have a Countdown title on them.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be interesting to me to see if somebody who's not reading Countdown picked up either of those books and what they thought.
And also, the Countdown we're seeing now is, I would say, dramatically different than the Countdown we're seeing the first 15 issues. Mm-hmm. There's been some definite, changes, stepping up the story, increasing the pace, and just, it's a different book now than it was before. So, yeah, that's...
And I think we're noticing that from Keith Giffen coming on board, as far as kind of coordinating everything.
Yeah.
Jim, I want to do a couple from our listener rants thread as well. And this one's from Skajam. It's been a couple weeks, so time for another Showcase Presents, Volume 1 of World's Finest Number 1. Although Batman and Robin have appeared on the Superman radio series back in the 1940s, and the heroes had shared covers on and off, and even appeared at the same time in a Justice Society story, somehow no one thought of having them specifically teamed up in one story until 1952. That story was finally printed in Superman number 76, which is reprinted in this volume. By strange coincidence, both Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne decide to take an ocean cruise on the same ship. By an even stranger coincidence, the ship is overbooked, and they're assigned to the same stateroom. Continuing along the chain of coincidences, just as the men are settling in, disaster strikes on the dock, and despite their efforts to cover up, Clark and Bruce discover that they have been sharing the same room with Superman and Batman. After fixing the disaster, the world's finest discover that a jewel thief has vanished, and the only place he could have gone is aboard the ship. So they book passage as their costumed identities. A couple of people decided to nix the trip after the disaster, only to discover that Lois Lane has also come aboard. How to search for the thief while keeping their secret IDs safe. Superman comes up with a brilliant idea of having Batman come on to Lois, distracting the girl reporter while Superman searches the ship. This seems to work swimmingly, and eventually the heist is solved. However, Lois was onto the distraction plot from the beginning and scores a rare victory by scorning both heroes to go on a date with Robin. Those of you who have read Superman Batman Annual last year will remember that it's an homage to this story. This story was very well received, so DC quickly made a slot in World's Finest Comics for the team, starting with issue number 71. This continued for the next 30 plus years. Of course, once you've established the team of two great flavors that taste great altogether, you run into the problem of what to have them do. Which is trickier than it sounds, since Superman is, well, Superman, and Batman is more or less human in costume. This led to the use of lots and lots of kryptonite, and various plots where Superman loses powers, and Batman and Robin gain some. Most of the villains introduced here were lackluster at best, but there is a classic first team-up of Luthor and the Joker. Strictly speaking, all of these stories are actually about a trio of heroes, since Robin appears every time, and often is the one who saves the day. Lois Lane is the usual Superman supporting character to appear, but is less useful. Overall, the stories are good, goofy fun, but you shouldn't think of them too hard, especially the ones where the trio time travel via hypnosis. This is from Wraithmaker. I'm getting tired of DC, I quit. Just checking to see if my keyboard still worked. Myron Rumsey. Okay, I just finished reading Green Lantern number 25, the Ion Special, Green Lantern Corps number 19 in the trio of issues that came out today, and all I can say is this was the best Green Lantern story I think I've ever read in 30 years. I've been a Green Lantern... I think that this is the best Green Lantern story I've ever read in 30 years that I've been the Green Lantern fan. Man, payoffs galore and a teaser for what will be the hot story of 2009, and yes, Sean, Hawkman is in Green Lantern number 25. And did you notice that the Black Lantern symbol matches the symbol of the Black Hand? Does that make him the big bad for 09? I can't praise this series enough, and everyone involved with the story deserves to take a big bow. Red Lantern just says that Jeff John's interview on Newsarama basically confirms that might be...
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I did. No, did I notice that? No.
No, I did not notice that either.
I'm going to go back and reread it, though.
Yeah.
JD number 75 follows us up with more talk about Green Lantern number 25. Wow, I don't think I've ever read an amazing book before. If at all possible, it read like a motion picture to me. It is just unreal. Let's start with the art. Brilliant. The amount of spreads in this book were just mind-boggling, and full pages were just incredible. This book was so beautiful to look at, I love it. The story, wow. Hal asking everyone in Coast City to evacuate, and not one person would. Instead, they all lit up green lights to show support for their hero without fear. It was so moving. I loved the double-page spread with Hal and Kyle leaving to fight the Sinestro Corps. Hell of a family, hell of a town, and I loved it. Who else was excited to see the Guardians enter the fray and take on the Anti-Monitor? The Guardians of the Universe are absent no more. When they get involved in something, they do it in fashion. The battle between the Green Lantern Corps and the Earth Heroes versus the Sinestro Corps was like something out of a blockbuster movie. It was just outstanding. The way John and Guy figure out how to end things was just too awesome for words, and I loved how Henshaw thanked the Lanterns before the end. It was actually moving. I also loved how the Lost Lanterns came to Coast City to help out Hal as a sign that things between them are better. Also, who didn't love Hal versus Kyle versus Sinestro fight? All of their rings depleted of energy, and Sinestro just looks at the two heroes and says, "Come on then, both of you." Then they charge at each other, and it was wicked. This fight was so awesome. They knocked each other off windows, crashed into windows, bashed each other with fists, feet, and other objects. It was awesome. The ending of the Sinestro Corps was amazing. From all of the epic battles, the defeat of the Sinestro Corps and its various members to the all-new discoveries, Green Lantern is going to keep people intrigued for years to come. I mean, come on, 7 Corps? Red Lanterns? Blue Lanterns? Violet Lanterns? Indigo Lanterns? Orange Lanterns along with yellow and green? That 2-page spread of the 7 Lantern groups fighting each other was awesome, and that will bring about the Blackest Night. How cool was that preview at the end of the book? It was just too awesome for words. Also, I'm interested to see what happens when Sayed and Ganthad make up their own corps and eventually made a new ring. I wonder who it will go to. There is so much more to this book that I'm totally forgetting, but I'll quickly try to bring it up. How about when Guy starts to bleed yellow? I really got worried for him there. How he survived was awesome. Also, did anyone catch the very first spread of the Green Lanterns fighting Sinestro Corps? And there was a Predator dressed in the Sinestro Corps uniform. I am also told there was an alien dressed up as a Sinestro Corps member, but I missed it. Also, if you read Jeff Johns' Bizarro story from Action Comics, the Bizarro Green Lantern is also in this book, which is a nice little Easter egg. This book is why I love Green Lantern and the Green Lantern Corps. I have been a fan of all things Green Lantern since the 80s, and this book, in the hands of Jeff Johns, is one of the most amazing jobs that I've seen since Rebirth over the past 2 years on the Green Lantern title. Kudos to a wonderful 25th issue, my favorite book of the year. I want to talk real quickly about the Tales of Sinestro Corps Ion, my least favorite of the 3 books, and it has nothing to do with the overall story. The art just really didn't do it for me. I knew that people aren't too happy with the design of Kyle's new mask, but it never bothered me until I saw this book. It just looked weird. I just didn't like it art-wise. Story-wise, though, it was great. Having Kyle and Sodam Yat working together was cool. Sodam seems to have a lot going on with him at the moment, having powers similar to Superman, and the power of Ion would probably make him one of, if not the most powerful being out there. But here he is having to wear his ring, otherwise the emerald shielding that is protecting him from lead poisoning from his battle from Superman Prime will affect him and he'll die. So naturally he's feeling a bit vulnerable. I like that.
Yeah.
It was a nice way to kind of tie that in and add some twist to this character that actually goes all the way back to Legion of the Superheroes. So that's cool.
Yeah. It's, you think about it, if you had given someone with all the power and strength that Superman, add a ring onto him, you would make him just completely just indestructible. So putting that very common weakness in there that makes it, kind of changes things around. But I like the fact that he stepped up to it. He wasn't just going to, woe is me. No, he is a hero. He is Ion. He is a lantern. There is more to him than just the surface. I like that character. I want to read more about him. I want to see more of him in the titles coming up.
He goes on to say that I like that the conversation that Sodam and Kyle have before Nero comes in and spoils the fun was great. The fight between Kyle and Nero was good, but when Sodam finishes the fight off and Kyle sees that Sodam could do something with the power of Ion that he couldn't, well, that was really neat. With Kyle joining the other Earth Lanterns and telling them that he's now an honor guard and Guy's new partner, I can see that Kyle will play a prominent role in Green Lantern Corps. Speaking of which, when we look at issue 19, wow, this book was cool. It was an after-the-war type of story to see what the various survivors of the Sinestro Corps War were doing. I love the conversation between Kyle and Guy in the beginning. Then Guy goes and finds Tora in New York. The full page with Kyle kissing Tora was just awesome. You can really tell that he's changed a lot since his Cowabunga days. I love getting a glimpse at all of the other Lanterns as they take a break after the war. The most moving for me was Kilowog on Mogo having a meal with his family. Comics rarely make me feel much for a character as those few panels did. It was just so heartbreaking and heartwarming all at once. Kilowog just frickin' rules. This book was way awesome, and it's just another reason why these titles will have me buying anything that comes out. Oh, Mongol has a Sinestro Corps ring? No friggin' way. And I loved that Green Lantern Corps 19 issue, dude.
Yeah.
The moments with Guy with Ice were, to me, I was like, I'm so glad they did this, because I was a fan of their relationship when they were both part of the Justice League. So to see that they didn't ignore that and they took time to acknowledge that, and actually, I agree with them, it showed how Guy's matured in the way that he handled that situation as a character, and I like seeing his evolution as well, because I've really grown to like him in that title. That is one of my favorite titles right now, the Green Lantern Corps book.
Oh, big time. I tell you, though, with Green Lantern 25, with the city, how he orders the evacuation and they don't go, dude, I was just reading that and I was just going, hoorah! Because you gotta love that, the fact that that city has been through so much. They've been beaten down, they've been kicked, they've been dragged through the streets, but they're not gonna go quietly into the night. They're gonna stand up and they're gonna rage against, just this invading force. All the Green Lanterns and the lights coming into the window. I was like, man, this is outstanding, especially like the follow-up issues where they're now calling it the City Without Fear. I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of babbling like an idiot, but for me, it had just a strong emotional response. And when a comic can bring out that type of hoorah response from you, something's firing on all cylinders. And the whole Green Lantern Corps, Green Lantern, they're all doing that for me consistently. Every time I pick up the title, I'm reading something on outstanding. I like this. It has that Corps, that police, that military feel to it. It's so realistic and just accurate, but it's not beyond, it still is a comic book. It still has that fantasy element to it. It's that believability, but still a level beyond that. So I'm gushing, and I will stop now.
Okay, and this is from, JD74 continues on with a review of Green Lantern number 26. So I think we should put this here because we could have a nice Green Lantern discussion here. I thought this issue was just awesome. The Guardians reflect about what has happened during the Sinestro Corps War and the changes that had to be made to adapt and come out victorious. It's because of these new changes that we get our first glimpse at the Alpha Lanterns that look like some freaky science experiment. I cannot see this being received so well. The conversation between Hal and Sinestro was so awesome, intense, and interesting. Hal and Sinestro have the Batman, Joker, Superman, Lex Luthor relationship, and Sinestro is so in that level of baddies. Sinestro gloats to Hal, saying that he won. He tells Hal that he had the Guardians and their Green Lanterns backed into a corner, and that if they were not for the new law giving Green Lanterns the authority to use lethal force, they would have been lost. I love how Sinestro considered Hal a friend, and how they were once close friends who together questioned the authority of the Guardians. I thought it was very interesting to see how Sinestro reacted to Hal's information that he was on death row. He almost seemed fascinated by the revelation, and it was interesting. I'm not sure what is up with John, but I love it. Him contemplating past events at the site of his greatest failure is an awesome character moment for me. But what is even more interesting is when John makes a star system with his ring, and he keeps it going for a bit until his ring tells him that his willpower is exceeding the capabilities of his ring. His willpower is exceeding the abilities of the ring? Wow, that is such a cool plot point. I cannot wait to see where Jeff goes with that. It should be awesome. I really liked that too, because it just goes to show that it's the most powerful weapon in the world because of the willpower of those people driving it. It really adds weight to the fact that certain people need to be chosen to wield it in order to use it to its full abilities.
And it really adds to why John has the ring.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of, why did he get the ring? Because there's been so many stories that have Kyle and that has Hal, has Guy even. They show, when Guy throws down, they show why he is a lantern. It was a subtle, I'd even call it a subtle point where it just shows who John Stewart is and what potential he has, in the future.
The one page with Salak and the Guardians is very nice, and you can feel the faith that Salak has for what he does and the wisdom of the Guardians. Salak makes a request of the Guardians, which is first, he asks that the Lost Lanterns be allowed to return the body of a fallen comrade to his family. The Guardians grant Salak's request on how Salak has always been a loyal member of the Corps. It was a good page and a good scene. And I like that they commented on the fact that he was always loyal and that carried some weight. You know, that he earned the right to make this request, and the request is being honored because he is someone special who has earned the right to make that request. It adds that hierarchy feel. That I like the hierarchy feel of the Corps. That there are certain people, because of their longevity, they have a little more status, and that it means something. And I like that he stood up for the Lost Lanterns.
Yeah, that was a cool moment, because it showed he doesn't always show his emotion. He doesn't always show. He seems a lot of times just the puppy dog, the blind dog who does exactly what he's told, who won't deviate, who won't risk getting in trouble. He says, "Yes, sir, do this." Bam, bam, bam. He's their lackey. Sometimes he comes across as that. This really showed that there is a man underneath that who, recognizes what's right and what's wrong. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another character who I'm glad we're seeing more out of.
Yeah.
I want more understanding of that character. I want to see how he fits in the universe. The Corps, to me, with the strength of what's going on in all the Green Lantern books right now, is it's not just focusing on one person only. Yeah, in Hal's book, Hal's the star, but it's not just Hal.
Yeah.
And it actually adds a lot of weight to that. The Green Lantern Corps book has so many strong core characters in it, but again, they will throw in new characters, and the reaction of those core characters to the development of that new character actually expands their story. It's great writing what they're doing right now with the Green Lantern books, and they really are. If you aren't reading the Green Lantern books, do yourself a favor, listen to some of these comments that are going on here, and see why you should be picking these titles up, because they are top of the stack books. The next page shows Lyra and the Lost Lanterns mourning those Lanterns who were lost in the Sinestro Corps War. Lyra sheds all her tears for Ki-Han, whose body they are going to bring back to his family. It turns out that Ki-Han taught Lyra how to be a lantern, and the two fell in love. But since Ki-Han had a family, they were never allowed to show each other how they felt. Now that Ki-Han is dead, Lyra is free to mourn the being that she loved. This page was filled with emotion, and the way the artist handled the panels in this page was just awesome. The next page shows why, in my opinion, Hal Jordan is the Captain Kirk of the DC Universe. I will make my reasoning for this comment now. Both are captains. The Power Ring is like the Enterprise, and the Green Lantern Corps is like Starfleet. There is the charisma. Hal gets down with Cowgirl in an emerald bubble, while their Air Force jets are flying in sync between the bubbles. This is so smooth that the king of smooth himself, Captain Kirk, would salute Hal. I also love how when Hal eventually arrives in Coast City to help with John, he asks Hal what her name was. Golden Buddy moment. And it is a great buddy moment. And that is one of those things. That's where John and Hal being together in this book so works for me. And it actually should be a template for some solo titles that don't have supporting casts that are this strong.
Okay, so if Hal is Captain Kirk, is John Spock or is he McCoy?
McCoy.
See, because I was thinking Ollie is McCoy, because that's the emotional, friend and that.
Yeah. What?
Well, McCoy was, okay.
You're calling him his emotional buddy?
No. Okay. McCoy always was the emotional response. I
am just teasing.
Oh, okay. I got to defend my spot.
I thought you were implying a little something else going on between those two.
Brokeback Enterprise.
It's kind of tough because I don't know that I could put John in like the place of Spock. He's got a little bit more. I love Spock as a character. Yeah. I just don't see John as Spock. I think if you put John and Ollie together, the two of them fit the places that Spock and McCoy would take in Hal's life. I just don't think I can plug them into either of those characters so simply. I agree with this completely with his Captain Kirk reference.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess they do fill those roles, but I don't put them in those types. But I totally agree with what he's saying. Speaking of Coast City, I am so happy for this plot line. I love that Coast City is becoming such a prominent place in the DC Universe. I can see this place becoming as big as Metropolis given some time to develop, and I just love it. As John is helping with the construction of the city, he is asking Tomar 2 and Graf Torin if they have found out any information about the prophecy of the Blackest Night. They are interrupted by Salak, who informs them that their request to bring Ki-Han's body back to his family has been granted. The Lost Lanterns bring Ki-Han's body, only to discover that his family has been slaughtered. As they look for the culprit turns himself in, Amon Sur. He gives himself up as the Lanterns rough him up a bit. This is a cool panel between Tomar 2 and Amon Sur, as they each say that their fathers would be ashamed of them. I have to say, I would have loved to see these two fight during the Sinestro Corps War. For some reason, to see two sons of former Green Lanterns fighting each other would have been great. Anyway, Amon Sur tells the Lost Lanterns that he gives up and to arrest him. Lyra, still enraged, basically butchers him. Graf Torn looks at what Lyra did and thinks she shouldn't have done that, as we see Amon's ring moving on. Who will get Amon's ring? Can't wait to find out, and I love this book. You know what I liked about that moment? It again furthers this storyline that they can kill now. They can use lethal force. And where do you turn that off? Did she have the right to do that? The answer is no. She should. This is a police force.
Yeah.
She should have brought them in. You know, who's going to police that? It's almost like they need to make laws for when lethal force can be used and when it can't.
And that's the use of lethal force is basic. The three basic laws, of course, are to protect the life of an innocent, to protect the life of an officer, or if by not stopping them with lethal force, they will later hurt somebody. So, and that's probably the most common usage of the use of lethal force in any law enforcement agency. So, we're going to have to see that again with we're going to have to see that with the lanterns. It's it's a risk that you have to take, and definitely her trial is going to be a very interesting thing, because I think we're going to see the Lost my personal guess is we're going to see the Lost Lanterns turn in their rings. And they become other lanterns of other colors, whether it's the rage for the red or maybe the violet. I'm not sure what lantern.
More their personalities. Is that what you're saying?
Right. They're going to say we're no longer Green Lanterns and turn in their rings. And I can see that.
Not just the Lost Lanterns, to see which lanterns in general maybe find that there's more in common with these other rings,
with these other colors, and it's going to be. This is the beginning of something really neat.
Well, it's an evolution of the Green Lantern concept and what it can mean. It's cool. It's really cool. This is from Wes RK, and he's got this little sensei love. I don't know if someone mentioned this or not, but Jim got it exactly right when he said that Sinestro wanted to be the greatest of Green Lanterns of all time still. Pretty much everything Jim mentioned was right. I don't remember what episode this was. If someone knows, please post it. And I think we both said that.
No, I said it, not you. Come on, dude, give me one.
Whatever you said is right.
Yeah.
Oh, you get a lot. What are you talking about? You are definitely the Nostradamus of this podcast after the Black Adam one.
Yeah. Do my happy dance.
Black Adam number 6, dude. We won't spoil it too much.
Yeah, because it's too close, but the word is revealed. Well, the word is revealed, and I will say it wasn't fuzzy pink bunny slippers, but
nice tie to Billy.
Yeah. Nice tie to Billy.
And I did like it.
Yeah, I liked how it
I was impressed, though, because... actually, let's put a spoiler warning right here. If you have not read Black Adam, you're going to want to skip ahead from this just a little bit. And it's Black Adam number 6. And, see, for me, I was expecting it to be one word. And when it was more than one word and it had such a nice tie to Billy, I really liked that. And I just wanted to put that little spoiler warning before we talked about that, just because... Yeah. That was the part that threw me off completely.
And that was the thing I kept saying. It couldn't just be one word. It had to be something. And I didn't even really think of some childhood thing for Billy.
I didn't know it could be more than one word.
Yeah, I knew it couldn't be just a hope or peace or something like that. It had to be something more. Something that he couldn't just walk down the street, pick up a dictionary, and read it and say it. It had to be... Mm-hmm.
Even more surprising, though, was the fact that when Faust gave him a word, he gave him Isis.
Yeah.
To use. So, I mean, I guess I've always seen one word being used. So I guess I never assumed they could assign more than one word.
Well, you think about it, Captain Marvel, Black Adam...
Oh, true.
...are the power words of the minions, of the sidekicks.
But that would be the name of the person...
who gave you the power.
Right, but they initially have the one word Shazam, based on the wizard. Although I guess if the wizard's name was something... like Captain Marvel or something that was more than one word, then they could use the wizard's name. So it was only because the wizard was named Shazam.
That they had,
Yeah, so that's some weight to it. It was cool. I liked it. I'm not in any way knocking it.
I loved that. That was awesome.
I really enjoyed that because I liked that it was something that would be so hard for him to figure out, but that it showed a nod back to Billy and who he is and that he's a kid underneath there. So that was cool. Speaking of that, actually, Red Lantern has a comment. Another slight rant about Trials of Shazam. This will be our last one that we're going to do right now. Trials of Shazam number 11 is the perfect example of what I have found wrong with Winnick's writing. I am unable to bring the characters of Billy and Freddy into my analysis because they have literally been defined beyond recognition. Nevertheless, I have 3 pieces of evidence that says that no care has taken into writing this book. Maybe this is a good story, but the glaring errors have made it difficult to see it as such. And I so want to like this book. Evidence number 1, a lack of respect for current team continuity. In this book, there are 2 teams shown, one being Shadow Pact and the other being the Justice League. And look at page 1, and every Shadow Pact reader will know that the team is being shown as an impossibility. Of the members shown, both Blue Devil and Zoriel are shown. If you don't know why that makes it impossible, then you need to get some Shadow Pact back issues because Zoriel is standing in with the team because Blue Devil is on a quest. The other team, being the Justice League, is totally represented wrong. Does anyone remember who the leader of the Justice League is? Well, it's not Superman. That was well established in the 6 issues of the formation of this team. In that formation, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman basically agree that it's the other members of the team, and as a result, they make Black Canary the leader. So at the end, why is Superman even talking? Can someone please tell Superman that he does not speak for the League, please? Okay. It's still Superman.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Batman still speaks up during the Justice League meetings and offers his advice to Dinah. Dinah, yes, is the leader, but it's not the only one. The other part is with the Shadow Pact continuity, there were moments where Zoriel and Blue Devil were on the team at the same time. I'm wondering if the issue here is the delays in Trials of Shazam versus when it takes place with regards to what's currently going on in Shadow Pact. So I don't know that it's necessarily not care. It may have been when Winnick wrote that, he was looking at the fact that Zoriel and Blue Devil were both currently in that issue of Shadow Pact, because they were together in that initial, because you went back and got all the back issues.
Yeah, I went and got all the back issues.
They did have some time together in that book before they split off. So I don't know if maybe that was when Winnick wrote this. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just throwing out my own hypothesis on why, because there was some art delays.
Yeah, and who knows even what the future of Shadow Pact is going to have. Maybe that team you saw was a future version, or who knows?
Do you ever see Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman being able to shut up on the Justice League?
No.
I don't see any member being able to shut up, though.
I don't see any other leader of the Justice League telling them, hey, I got this. This is, Superman. Yeah, he may not be the leader, but you're still going to want his value, his opinion. Plus, the outside world are always going to look to Superman. They're going to want, to look to him.
Plus, a good leader knows when to speak over somebody, when to take charge, and when to step back and let that other person just say, okay, you know what? They're handling this well. I need to step back and let them step up to the plate. So I was okay with that. I really didn't have an issue with it. And I mean, he does. That's okay. That worked for me. I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, just because I do think a good leader doesn't always do all the talking. I think you step back and just listen sometimes and you get some ideas. So, I don't know. Evidence number 2, a mischaracterization of Shadow Pact. Freddy says they play too fair. Really? This is the team that came together in the Day of Judgment series, and if anything, they fight dirty. Yes, Ragman plays fair. That's a first. They have a code to them, though.
Yeah, they got the three laws, the 3 laws that they adopted, which are basic laws that any hero has, but they do have a code. So
in their own book, they've developed that code.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They stick by that code. They actually developed that code because of what he's saying.
Yeah, because they had problems with innocent people dying and.
Which was also right around the time that Zoriel and Blue Devil were there, which actually adds weight to the fact that that's when Winnick was writing this.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was those same issues, right around that time when they developed the code.
Yeah.
So that could be where Winnick was drawing from for this particular thing. So it actually adds weight to this is the time frame in Shadow Pact that he was drawing off of.
Yeah, because when they announced the code, Devil was still on the team, but right after they announced it is when Devil left the team.
Which shows that Winnick would have done his research around that time.
Yeah.
But then delays have then put him in a much later time frame with compared to where Shadow Pact is. So I argue that this shows that Winnick did his homework with Shadow Pact. I don't know.
Yeah.
Evidence number 3. Honestly, the JLA, you're in serious trouble in the realm of magic and you call the JLA? You would literally have to ignore the storyline where Billy was a member of the JSA and even turn down JLA membership because he was devoted to the JSA. So when Billy and Freddy get into trouble, do they call the JSA? No. Call the JLA. Call Superman, who's completely vulnerable to magic. Call Batman, who hates magic in all forms. Zatanna is shown with the Shadow Pact, so she isn't even part of the League in that regard. That means that the only magical member in the League is already tapped. That is, if you think Zatanna is a member of the League. Heaven forbid the JSA is tapped, a seasoned society of veterans along with younger members with fresh idea, who, if anyone, might actually have an idea of what to do given the circumstance. Did Ma Hungle fall asleep and leave the phone off the hook? Also, if this was really a serious problem, wouldn't it be a good idea to call both groups? Okay, that about sums up my rant. I have found Winnick's writing is good if it doesn't rely on continuity or known characterization. If for some reason it does, then the writing suffers a major continuity error and a complete mischaracterizations of known characters. I guess if you can get beyond these blindingly glaring issues, then you can get down to the lush and beautiful artwork in this book. Artistically speaking, the book is one of the more beautiful books being rendered right now. I'm going to comment on the JSA one, too. He's wrong. Billy, who is Captain Marvel, who nobody on the JSA knew besides Courtney, that he was a boy, was having sort of a relationship with Courtney and was asked in a very awkward moment to leave by the Flash, Jay Garrick.
Yeah.
They had a very weird ending to their relationship. So would Billy go to them or to Superman, who he's had recent crossovers with, written by Winnick?
And
he would go to Superman. Superman and Billy handled magic characters together. He's found that he can rely on Superman in those situations. And they brought Zatanna along, who would be considered an auxiliary member of the League anyway, who recently has worked with Batman multiple times in his title. So who would Batman call first? Zatanna, because they currently have a very good relationship. I don't know how you wouldn't say, like, who would the League call? They would say, hey, you know what, we got a magic issue. Let's pull from our former membership in Zatanna, who is currently working with them in other books. I mean, she's appeared in Detective very recently. Multiple storylines, which again goes back to this time frame for Winnick, because she was appearing in Detective around the time frame that we're talking about with Shadow Pact.
it also, you gotta, the other side is, this is still the JLA.
Mm-hmm.
This is still, you know, the team you want in your corner, watching your back. Now, if it had been me in this situation, I don't know, I probably actually would have, you know, looked. Yeah, I would have gone to them. I probably would have looked to Shadow Pack and the JLA. Shadow Pack for the Magic, JLA just because it's the JLA. You know, you got to trust in. These are the mainstream heroes. These are your top line, you know, the go-to guys and girls of the superhero community. These are people that, you know, everybody, and not just superheroes, but everybody says, that's who I want to be. That's the team. It's, I don't know. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, I had zero issue with it. I thought it worked really well. I guess.
Yeah.
There's certain points where you've got to really kind of look at some continuity things with an open mind. And to me, I don't know. Time frame wise, I know this book was delayed, and I know this book was delayed for art reasons. It's the reason why there's been an art shift in this book. Okay, so I know that's frustrating to people and all that, but you have to look at the fact, okay, time frame wise with this delay, is there a period in time when I could plug this in? And if you look back, there is a period of time where this book would have worked, continuity wise.
Yeah.
And you just got to say, okay, it took place then. I know that's not a great answer, and not everybody might love that, but I don't know. Wait, let's cross all that out right now. Are you reading Trials of Shazam?
Yes.
Do you like it?
Yes.
Okay. He's right in the sense that they are changing Billy and Freddy a great deal. And Dio's explained this in the sense that they're characters who right now they're having trouble fitting into the universe. And whether you agree with that or not, it's neither here nor there. This is the book that they're redefining the characters in. So if you don't like the fact that they're redefining these characters, it might not be the book for you. He's right. They are drastically redefining those characters. They said that, though. So, I mean, that was the whole point of this book. That's why they're saying the new Johnny DC book is going to be the one you want to go to if you want that classic Shazam feel. As a matter of fact, they've actually got a different universe devoted to Captain Marvel in his original form.
Yeah.
So it'll be. I actually wouldn't mind seeing this Captain Marvel teamed up with that Captain Marvel at some point if the multiverse continues post Final Crisis. You know, just to see how the original Captain Marvel would react to this new version. So I don't know. That's kind of something I would like to see. But there are also opportunities then to, if you needed to, pull them and bring them over. If this doesn't work, storyline-wise, you can explain that somehow their Earth explodes and they come over. You got a very simple reboot opportunity. Blow up Earth S.
Yeah.
They need a new home. I don't know. It's interesting. I know he's got a lot of passion, just from when we met him in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
For those characters, and I think revamping those characters is something that he doesn't like, and I can respect and understand that. I'm enjoying the story, so
Yeah, I have no history, no background, no whatnot with them, so reading I take it from the ground floor. This is the reboot, this is who they are, so it's, yeah.
I would definitely understand the argument, though. Do you read,
Yeah.
like, the Showcase Shazam, read
Yeah.
Jerry Ordway's Power of Shazam, and read, of course, the recently released, which is amazing, and I can't recommend to anybody enough, The Monster Society of Evil by Jeff Smith, and you can see that there is drastic difference in what they're doing right now. But the Age of Magic is changing. He is a magic-based character, so because of the new Age of Magic, you would see that their particular universe and their particular powers would change as well. So, I don't know. I'm more interested in what happens with them beyond this miniseries than how it's revamping them. It's a great miniseries right now, but I'm like, do they have a plan for these characters beyond that, or is this going to be an isolated revamp and then we don't see anything with them? If they play into the universe beyond this miniseries and they actually do something prominent with them, then to me, this was a worthwhile reboot that is paying off. But if it doesn't, then in my eyes, I'm like, why did they even bother with this? So that's where I'm more curious, is to see what the plans are. And I gotta believe there's a plan for these characters outside of this.
There has to be, considering how prominent Mary Marvel is in the countdown to Final Crisis. So there's got to be something with these characters beyond this.
But Billy and Freddie have been noticeably absent in that.
Right.
Which I'm wondering, where are they, and when are we going to see them, and what does that mean? And that, to me, is crucial. I'm not saying I have a problem with it right now. I know they're waiting to wrap this up, and then they're going to I'm sure they're going to bring them in on some level. But what does that mean? Where are they going to fit into all this, and how do they fit in the main universe? Because if you're revamping them to make them a better fit, then I'm hoping there's a plan for them beyond that. And maybe we'll see some kind of reconciliation between him and the JSA. Not that there was a major issue, but it was kind of awkward. I guess in my mind, I can see that that's why he might not go to them first, although I might be wrong. Maybe Winnick, because he wrote Superman and Shazam so recently, chose Superman because that was the most recent use of the characters. So he went to Superman first. I guess I took it as he went to Superman, not the Justice League. And who would Superman go to but the Justice League and Zatanna?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's my take. Let's talk, Jim, about Countdown Arena. Jim, let's talk about Countdown. Our next review is Countdown Arena 1 through 4. The writer is Keith Champagne. The penciler is Scott McDaniel. It's inked by Andy Owens, colored by Guy Major, lettered by John J. Hill. Assistant editor is Harvey Richards. The editor is Michael Siglane. Covers by Andy Kubert.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Did you vote?
Yes.
Okay, so as we talk about each of those fights, we'll have to talk about who we voted for as we get to that point. Let's just jump right into Countdown Arena Issue 1. Gotta love starting off with the Batman issue first. Scott McDaniel really had an amazing run on the Bat books, and his grasp of this shows in the Victorian era with Batman. Because that opening spread for me was like, wow.
Okay, part of the reason I did the Let's Get Ready to Rumble wasn't just because of the thing. You and I are about to have an argument.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I know your stance on, Countdown Arena.
Okay.
And I've been telling you that I agree with you on a lot of that.
Go ahead.
I was lying to you to set up for this moment.
Oh, that's fine.
Now, before I get started, I am going to say I read Countdown Arena. I'm glad I read it. I enjoyed the story.
Okay.
And I do think that there's something more to this arena and the events that are stemming out of it than just, countdown to greed or just to sell a story. There's something more happening, and we're going to see the end of this play out later on in Countdown to Final Crisis.
Right.
That being said, I wish this had been put in Countdown and not been its own limited series.
Oh, I disagree with you completely. Because the pacing in Countdown, if you would have slowed down Countdown to throw this in there, I disagree. This is a side story that was told outside. I don't think we needed to see this in Countdown. Here's
how I would have actually... At first, I didn't know how I would have tied it into it, but then I started thinking about these last couple of days. What I would have done is... And there's another thing where, in the back of the books, the backup stories, instead of the villain origins, which I do enjoy, but instead of those, put the Monarch story. and actually have Countdown Arena told in the Monarch story from the beginning to the end. They could have spread this out throughout all of the thing, and even thrown in some villain stuff as well.
I don't think you're talking about just a few pages at a time. I don't think it would have read as well that way. This read very well as individual issues, and I liked reading it in single issue format. I see what you're saying in the sense that you could have spread it out as a backup story. I guess at first I thought you were saying to plug it into the main book and lengthen the amount of time it took to get to the battle. I'm sorry, by the time that battle started between the Monitors and Monarch, that needed to happen there. We needed to see that already. It's like enough already. Let's get moving. So pacing-wise, I think there was appropriate decision in Countdown to not put this in there because you knew by then that he was gathering people through the little side panels that they were showing in there. That was really all I needed to see in Countdown. I disagree in writing-wise with I wouldn't have plugged this into the Countdown story by any stretch. This needed to be a side story.
And I enjoyed it as a side story. And I do see why they did it as a side story, because this is...
But you're saying as a backup feature at the end, is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking like a backup feature, or even thrown in the Countdown, actually have it in the book. Just because it's such a strong part of Countdown's story.
And see,
I'd like to see that.
So then why wouldn't we plug in Death to the New Gods? Why wouldn't we plug in Salvation Run?
Well, Salvation Run to me is a different story.
How long do you want to run Countdown? Salvation Run's not a different story.
In a way, it is.
It ties totally into what's going on with Trickster. Then Death to the New Gods.
See, now Death to the New Gods, you could argue.
Lord Havoc and the Extremists.
See, Lord Havoc and the Extremists to me is more of a accent to something introduced. I don't think you need that in there.
This is an accent.
Yes and no.
So is Death to the New Gods. All of these are accents. No.
Okay. Lord Havoc and Extremity is definitely an accent. I wouldn't call this an accent. I would say this is part of the countdown to the Final Crisis. The events that end this are going to affect in Final Crisis itself, if not in Countdown to Final Crisis.
Did you feel you needed to read this to understand the Monarch War?
No.
With the Monitors.
No.
Then why did this need to be in there?
Because I think it would have I think it would have helped out and
Wait, no. What word did you just use? You used the word accent. You're right. It would have accented it, and I totally agree with you there. This is a great accent story to it. But you do not have to read this to understand the war in Countdown. It did not need to be there. It would have stretched out a story in Countdown that did not need to take place there. This is for people who are interested in how Monarch set up his army. If you aren't interested in that, if it's just enough for you to know that he set up an army by pulling people from different Earths, they showed you that in Countdown. And they did. They showed you that in little panels in Countdown where they showed the Batmans being pulled, they showed other characters being pulled as a gradual lead up to the war. You did not need this to understand the war. What part of this do you feel you needed to understand that?
No, I'm not saying you needed this to understand the war. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if this had been in Countdown, Countdown would be a better story for it.
I disagree immensely.
I think.
What do you feel that was lacking in the Monarch's battle with the Monitors that occurred in Countdown? No, I'm just telling you what was missing.
Not the actual battle itself, but the lead up to the battle.
They have been building that battle for the entire Countdown series. How much more do they need to build?
See, this is where I admit I'm a little torn on it, because as I said, I like this as a thing. I thought it was a good story, and I think it had it was an actual true story, and I understand completely why it was a separate story, why it was its own separate trade. I understand that. Part of me would think that the Countdown to Adventure would have been better off with this in it. I'm not saying Countdown to Adventure is bad. I love it. I am enjoying it.
Countdown to Adventure.
What did I say? Yeah, sorry. Countdown to Final Crisis. Okay. Sorry.
You're totally throwing me off.
Yeah, sorry. That was.
See, now I'm going to disagree with you on behalf of what people who are detractors from Countdown are saying. A lot of them are saying there's a lot of build, but not enough happening. So now you want to put a lot more build into something and not enough happening. To me, I disagree.
I would have put
this is a ton of build that just didn't need to happen in there because it was already built in the book. They built to the Monitor. They've been building what Monarch was doing since the beginning. When we first saw Monarch, they've been building that he was building to some kind of war. All those issues when he was pulling, what's her name? I'm drawing a blank right now. Forerunner. All that stuff with Forerunner was this build. This is a side story. They already did all this with Forerunner. Now you want them to do it again in the book? The whole Forerunner story was that build of the war. There comes a point where people are going to say, okay, enough already. Do we have to see every week Monitor grabbing people? This was kind of a fun way as a side story to say for the fans interested in being involved in voting for Monarch's Army, we're going to do this mini-series where you can vote and you can be involved. This is a way for the fans to be involved in a side story that was built up. I wouldn't have wanted to see this in the main book. Your backup theory adds a little bit more weight to me, except I don't know that this would have worked well as a 2 to 3 page backup.
There were some scenes that would have to definitely have been
cut.
Cut from this story, but also would have had to have been not just a 2-issue backup. It would have had to have been 4 or 5 page story to get the full grasp, because you need the full, like the fight scenes, those all needed to be exactly how they laid them out. Those were wonderful fight scenes. I really enjoyed those.
So then here's what happens. You've got a choice then in Countdown. Do you shrink the page numbers in the main Countdown book in order to do that? Or do you add pages to the book and charge more money? You can't do that.
It's
a weekly book.
If you look at like especially some of the earlier Countdown stuff, we said that the pace was, kind of, people were saying the pace is off a little bit.
But you weren't saying
adding that. I wasn't.
You're changing. But see, here's what I'm saying.
Here's what I'm thinking.
Okay,
I wasn't saying that, but there were a lot of people out there who said it was missing, the build up. It was a little bit slow. Imagine if you read this kind of like, you're like, okay, then you get to the end and you're like this, bam, Wonder Woman fight scene, bam, Green Lantern fight scene.
But you're contradicting yourself now, because
now I'm not saying that. I'm saying that.
But
this would be something.
You're contradicting yourself to validate your point, which doesn't make sense to me.
How? Wait.
Because you were saying that you've been enjoying Countdown all along.
Yes.
So now you're saying that it would have been that you would have wanted these things in Countdown. I guess I feel personally if this was put in Countdown, people who right now are saying, "Geez, I want something to happen already," would have been saying, "Okay, we're seeing more development with the Monitor in Countdown. Can we get to him fighting the Monitors already? We've seen enough Monarch development. Can we get to him fighting the Monitors already?" I think people were ready to see it. They gave you enough of that in Countdown. This is definitely side story material. Do you think this is really main story that needed to be in there?
It's
like Death. Death to the New Gods, which I feel is one of the most outstanding Countdown tie-ins right now. One of the Countdown brands, whatever you want to call it right now, is a story that I totally feel is a side story. I do not feel you need to read Death of the New Gods on any level to understand Countdown. I think it's a tremendous story. I think it's a story every person should read. I think you are missing out on something amazing if you're not reading Death of the New Gods. But I do not at any point in time feel that book should be plugged into Countdown. I feel that should be the side story that it is. I put this in that same category. I don't think it should be a part of there. I think, honestly, and I'll say the same thing with Death to New Gods, I think Countdown would be hurt by having that story within Countdown. It needs to be told us. And I also think that the Death to the New Gods story would be hurt if it was in Countdown, because I think it needs to be told as its side story and contained. This, I think if you plugged it in and you spread it out and cut it into pieces, I think you would have lost some of the messages that were in this one. And maybe you and I, in the end result of this, is we're going to be on very different pages of this, and that's okay. I've got to give a counterpoint in this, because I think the way that it was presented was very well done. Is it my favorite of the Countdown tie-ins? No, but I think it was pretty well written.
I want to choose my words carefully, because I'm not saying Countdown's bad. I'm not saying Countdown, this would have made Countdown better. I'm saying I like Countdown. I like what I read. I enjoyed the process, the flow that it took to get to the Monarch fight. I like the Monitor fighting that they showed, and you didn't need to read this to understand it. I completely, 100% agree with you. I also agree with you that this was a great story, that I'm glad it was told, and I'm glad I read it, and I'm glad I own it. I'm just throwing out there that one of the biggest complaints that people had to Countdown was the build-up, was that slow chugging that happened in the first 20-some issues.
I take too much build, though, and not enough event.
Okay, now imagine if the event in that, you read the countdown through and you're like, okay, it's building, come on. And then you get to the end and there's this 4-page spread of a Green Lantern fight or a 4-page spread of a Wonder Woman fight.
Every week?
Not every week, maybe every other week. Something that keeps you going, oh yeah, it'd be one of those things, yeah, I'm liking the build, but I'm really digging those backup stories with Monitor, with the arena. I'm really liking that. That's what I was thinking.
You don't think that flow of this would have been met? Like, the way these issues flowed, there was stuff that was going on on camera, I should say, that was a build-up to the actual fights. The side story that was going on with planning between the people who were actually captured by the Monitor. You don't think that stuff would have been lost in 4 pages?
I will fully admit, yes, there would have been problems cut into this.
I think that would have hurt this story drastically.
But, yeah, That's where my theory is weak. I fully admit my theory is very weak in that by cutting it up like that, you would lose something on what was cool about this story. That it wasn't just about fighting. It was something more, especially the ending of this. There's something that's going to play out later on, in whether it's in the final crisis or in Countdown or whatnot. I'm not sure, but
and
yes.
The unique handling of each fight and the storyline that was going on behind that was also developing on the arena floor, I think would have totally been lost. I got to disagree with you immensely on this.
And I do admit that is a weakness of my theory, of my comments and whatnot, that it would have hurt the story aspect of this. I'm just wondering, would people have appreciated a Countdown more if it had these splashes of action, these things thrown in there? If the writers could have come up with a way to do it. I'm not a writer. So I don't know.
No,
maybe they
could have. What I'm saying is, though, you're saying that people would have appreciated the main story more because of the backup?
Yes.
And see, because that to me is never something you should shoot for. The backup should be a bonus. The main story itself should... See, personally, I've enjoyed the main story because I feel the main story has carried itself. I have never picked up an issue of Countdown and gone, wow, that 2-page backup in the back made it totally worth reading. It was a nice bonus. I enjoyed that. I felt the same way about 52. I'm not saying that Countdown and 52 are very different. So my reasons for liking Countdown are very different than my reasons for liking 52. But I guess, I don't know.
Think of it as like... When you're reading a story and one of the story arcs really kicks in, like, man, that was awesome. I like with the whole with Trickster dying, how whenever those scenes afterwards with Piper dealing with it, like, wow, that really accented on this comic. That's what I'm thinking. The arena could have been in the early.
So does Death to the New Gods. So does Salvation Run.
But no, I'm not saying when I say accent, I mean just.
They all do that for me.
But it's not accent. It's like something that would when you read the one story arc in the issue in an individual issue of Combat.
The Dark Side, the Jimmy Olsen, the New God stuff is all being enhanced for me by what's going on in Death to the New Gods. It's all being enhanced to me because of that.
I'm not explaining myself clearly because you're not understanding. I'm not saying that.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. You're saying that the main Countdown... I'm telling you, I liked the Monarch story immensely. It was one of my favorite stories. Aside from Mary Marvel and what was going on with Piper and Trickster, it was my other go-to story. Anytime Monarch appeared, I really enjoyed it. I liked the way he interacted with the challengers. I liked every appearance with the character. I liked the stuff with Forerunner. Enough that it made me want to read Forerunner's background story that they've been printing in the anthology title. So, in my eyes, the Monarch story has been pretty great. I've been enjoying it. But I was ready by the time that the battle between Monarch and the Monitors started in Countdown. I was ready for it already. If it had taken any longer to get to it, I think they would have lost me on that story. And I think if we had put it in the main Countdown story, it would have taken longer. This story, I think, it's a matter of opinion. Maybe other people listening will go, well, Jim's right. There should have been a backup story. In my eyes, if you read this and you broke this up by pages and you take a look at the way this was written, this would not have translated well into a 4-page story. Plus, I don't see this being put into Countdown as a 4-page story because the main story of Countdown has so many different little threads. Even when they only focus on one character, I can't see them cutting out 2 or 3 pages of the main story in order to put this filler in the back. It just doesn't... Yeah. To me, it would have ruined what I am enjoying about Countdown. I just can't see this fitting in that book. Yeah, and I totally understand what you're saying. I understand how you're saying a plug-in. I'm just looking at I don't see how you could have plugged this into that book and made it work.
And I'm not an editor or a writer, so I really can't say how. This is one of those things. This is the difference between coming up with an idea and writing a story. I have an idea in my head, but I don't have the skills to write the story.
But see, here's the difference. I liked this the way it was presented.
And so do I. Hold on. So do I. I like Countdown. I like the way this was presented.
Right.
I'm just looking at other options, other ways to look at things. That's what I do.
You just got sudden saying you were contradicting me on this. If you're saying you like, I guess
I do. Hold on.
I guess what I'm saying is, though, when you were done reading this, what was it about this that made you think that it needed to be in that book? I don't see it needing to be in that book.
Okay. Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. I like vanilla ice cream. I do. I like it. I like the taste of French vanilla ice cream.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Now, if I add, a strawberry sauce or a caramel sauce to it, I like it even more. I'm not saying I don't like the vanilla ice cream, but I like the adding on to it. So if I'm sitting there looking at this bowl of vanilla ice cream, I'm going to think, hey, what else can I add to it? Now, I like Countdown. Okay. I'm looking at Countdown. I like Countdown. I'm going to look at it and say, what else could I do to make me enjoy it more?
I like vanilla ice cream. I like chocolate ice cream. I like sherbet. If I put all that in a bowl and I put sprinkles and chocolate sauce and every little thing that I like on it in that one bowl, eventually it becomes too much crap in my one bowl. This is too much crap in that one bowl. Using your same analogy, I think if you put this Countdown Arena into the Countdown book, you're putting too much in one book. If I put Death of the New Gods, which I'm enjoying, I think it's an essential. I think it's a story. If you're interested at all in the stuff that's going on with the New Gods and Countdown, and you're not reading Death to the New Gods, you are doing yourself a disservice. Now, do you have to read it to understand that in Countdown? No, but I think it betters that particular story for you if you do. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, that being the case, not everybody can afford to read all these tie-ins. You're still getting that complete story in Countdown. I still stand behind that. But there are certain Countdown tie-ins that I have been enjoying more than the others that for me are essential reading because I like certain threads. If they were to take Death of the New Gods because I'm enjoying it and plugged it into the main Countdown book as a backup story, they would have chopped up Death to the New Gods, put it into 4 or 5 page spreads. What Starlin's doing in that book would have been lost, and it would have greatly diminished the way the pacing flows and the presentation of each issue. In this case, if you would have taken issue number 1 of this, chopped it up into little pieces, plugged it in the end of Countdown as little 4 or 5 page spreads, even 6 pages, still something would have been lost in my age. In my personal presentation. And I think it would have been too much stuff in Countdown that should have been told outside for people who don't care. Not everybody cares how Monarch got his army. For some people who read that whole Monarch army thing, they're kind of like, okay, I'm enjoying the Monarch and Monitors thread. I don't care enough about Countdown Arena to read it because I don't really care how he developed his army. I'm enjoying the Dark Side stuff more. I'm reading Death to the New Gods because I like that. And that's more of interest to me. Or I'm reading the Action Comics issues with Jimmy Olsen because I want to see what's going on with Jimmy Olsen. That's my thing. I think you try to throw too much stuff into Countdown and you all of a sudden you ruin the ice cream.
And it could you could be 100% correct.
Okay.
I'm not going to say you're wrong on this, and it could very easily been too much stuff in there if they had thrown it in there.
Okay.
It could very easily have ruined it. I don't know. Maybe is something I'm just throwing out there.
Maybe you saw breaking points in this that I didn't see. I don't know. I think we need to talk about the issues to actually see.
And I'll tell you, I didn't see breaking points. I throughout my notes, I'm like, I couldn't figure out why.
I'm trying to see. You're right. I don't understand completely what you're saying, and I admit that openly because I guess reading this the way it flowed, I don't see breaking points the same way. And I have to use the analogy of Death to the New Gods because it's another one of these that I do. For me personally, Death to the New Gods is essential reading. I think it's an outstanding and amazing piece of work. Honestly, and I'll say this, if you are listening to this and you aren't reading Countdown, you can read Death to the New Gods independently. And if you like cosmic stories and you want to read stuff about the New Gods, that is an incredible story. It doesn't have the Countdown logo on it, which this one does. So maybe to a certain extent, that isn't a fair comparison, but I don't know how you can't connect that with Countdown.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you're with me on that at all. I don't,
Yeah, I am agree with that.
I think there's stronger Countdowns. There's stronger Countdown connections right now in Death to New Gods than what I'm seeing in Countdown to Adventure, just because you mentioned it before.
Right.
And I'm enjoying Countdown to Adventure, but I don't feel there's this drastic tie right now to Countdown.
Right.
It may in the end tie into Final Crisis, but I don't see a whole lot of that yet, other than the backup story. Let's just talk about this.
Let's just talk about it. Yeah,
it's funny.
I tell you, and it's, as I said, I have like an idea or a concept even. I don't even have a written story where I say, right here you can break, hey, you could do this. I don't know that. I honestly don't, and I will give you 100% credit. Yes, it probably would be too much in Countdown. I will completely give you your argument, your ice cream argument, because that is a true thing.
I think it's too much setup. I think it's too much setup in Countdown. That's the part. I think, honestly, just because on our forum, on Newsarama, just around the net in general, comic book resources, on DC Comics forum, a lot of what people are arguing about with Countdown, because I try to understand other people's perspective, even if I don't agree with it myself. A lot of what I'm seeing is that people feel like there's a lot of setup, a lot of, development, and not enough not enough events happening. When is something going to actually happen? This, to me, is more setup. If you put it in the main book, I like this setup. I'm enjoying this. This was great, but I think if you would put this in the main book, you're now adding that to more people who are ready to see something happen with Monarch and the Monitors. I don't know that this needed to be told in the main book.
Yeah.
Your backup story thing does hold more weight to me.
Because I was thinking it would be the bang. This would be the bang.
Sure, if they had increased the page count and they put this in as a backup story, I would have gone for that. But again, then you're running into, do they increase the price? And I guess I'm trying to look at it from a business standpoint. They're trying to keep Countdown at the 2-page at the end, little origins are different than putting in a full-blown backup story.
Right.
Where you're going to be doing, like this one, in order to do it, you couldn't have done this 2 pages at a time.
No. Oh, no. Not at all.
Not without drastically shrinking
removing
down.
And damaging the story.
Right.
I'm 100% on the other side on that.
So going on your theory, if they were to do this and successfully do it, I would even, to kind of bend a little bit and kind of see it your way, if they did this to 4 or 5 pages or even 6 pages in the background, as a backup story, kind of like what they're doing with the anthologies, but then, look at how much the anthologies cost more than the regular books.
Right.
So
that could hurt them.
And that's, to me, where I'm saying, no, I don't want to see them add to the price point, because I think right there, with it being a weekly book, if you had a 6-page backup story or a 5-page or even a 4-page, and you're starting to increase the price of the page count, you're going to lose people who are reading Countdown right now who...
And you could hurt it. I see.
Who are already saying, I've seen enough setup already, so you're going to make me pay for more setup within Countdown. I want the story to continue already. Whereas with this, people have a choice to say, okay, I'm really digging Monarch. I'm digging his story so much that you're going to tell in a miniseries, let me vote on it, step by step, how he developed his army. I'm going to go read that. But the guy who's kind of like, all right, I'm kind of lukewarm on the whole Monitor thing, but I'm following it enough that I want to see where it's going, has now the option to just say, good, you finally told me what's happening, where this has been leading to. I get that. We can keep moving on, and I can follow my other threads that I'm enjoying. I'm reading Death to the New Gods and loving it.
Yeah.
I like that better. I think that's a much better option. You're giving the fans the choice on what minis that they're picking up. They don't have to pick this up to understand. They really don't. There's nothing in here. For me, there's a lot more bang because I'm really into Monarch and what he's doing. But for the fan that's not, this gives them the option to jump off or not. And it gave them the chance to really kind of delve into this for us, those of us who are psycho and want to see every little detail. Some things are just meant to be off camera and can be told in little side stories. I don't know. I guess that's just my thought. Because, realistically, going on your argument, if they had added that and increased the price point, all of the side stories that we're reading could have then been plugged into the main Countdown book, but I don't think the price point that they would have had to sell that at, which would have been what they're selling Countdown to Adventure at, would have been something that the mass market fans would have gone for. Because going on your theory, if they had done that, and I would have gladly paid for that, put everything in there, all these little backups and everything that are being done on the side into the Countdown book, and put them as backup stories and increase the page count and the price point, I would have gladly paid it and enjoyed it. Because I'm enjoying all those stories and I'm already picking them up. But not everybody wants to pay that extra $1 to get that.
Right.
We would have.
We would have because we're psycho. And there's other fans who would have because, hey, this is a cool story, and if they're enjoying what they're reading.
Right.
This is where I don't know what it's... Yeah.
I'm going on... I hear a lot of the financial argument on the weekly book, because it's weekly. You got to remember, we would be adding another $1 onto the weekly book, which means every month you're adding $4 for everybody.
Right.
Now all of a sudden they're already spending, that money on the weekly book, and you've added another. That means another title they have to drop because of Countdown. There comes a point where people are going to just say, "I'm not going to jump on board that." They had to keep it within a.
Yeah,
I guess that's the argument I'm making is more from a financial standpoint.
I can see that, and I agree with that.
They would have been page counts, because you could have fit all of these side stories, actually, the way you're talking about as a backup story, into Countdown. It would have been more like the anthology style that we are seeing in Countdown to an Adventure, and it could have worked pacing-wise. This could have been broken up into a 5 or 6 page book. I'll take it back. I really think you would have. Price-wise, I don't think people would have gone for it.
That would definitely... See, these are all things that I didn't even consider or think about. I was just throwing that out there, more or less. But yeah,
I think
in a way, though, part of it on the price system, though, if we eliminate the price of, the Countdown to Arena, if we eliminate the price of Death and New Gods, if we eliminate the price of...
Death and the New Gods, though, if they did that in 5 to 6 page, remember that book's a pretty big book with a lot of drama in it.
Yeah,
I don't know how you could have to break that up and do it successfully. That would have taken an awful long time as a backup story.
Yeah,
and I take it back. And even in the amount of weeks that Countdown's been out, I'm going to take back what I'm saying. I don't know that you could have plugged all these in there, and I don't know that I really. When we start talking Death to the New Gods, and that's where my mind kind of changed. I'm like,
forget that.
I really don't
Take
know.
that out of the equation.
I could not break that one up because that.
But
really...
maybe they could pull the Forerunner story from Countdown to Adventure and throw that in here,
and then release Countdown to Adventure separately.
Yeah,
as a
because really Countdown to Adventure is 52 continuation,
right?
So they would reduce the price,
rebrand that as a 52 Aftermath story.
Yeah. Reduce the price of that, or maybe include a different, aftermath of the 52, like have the Ralph and Sue story continuing or something. I don't know.
I think if you do that, though, you're going to have the same argument you're having with the Count. See,
right? Yeah,
we're running into a vicious cycle because you'd have the same argument then about 52 Aftermath. I don't know. I don't know what would be a good solution for this. That's where I really do get puzzled because I see the financial side of it. I keep seeing people talk about that, and there is a huge financial commitment if you're trying to pick up all of these minis. I like that this was contained. I like that you didn't have to read it in order to enjoy Countdown. To me, it added more bang to it for me. Because I liked it. I picked it up voluntarily. And at the end, I was like, well, okay, it led me right into Countdown, but I got enough of the tidbits within Countdown that I knew where it fit in because Countdown already told me this.
See, this is one of the reasons why I'm a banker, not a editor for a comic book company or a writer, because I don't know that aspect of it. I don't know how to do the business idea. I get these notions and thoughts, and then, but beyond that, I'm like, okay, I'm just some idiot who reads comics.
Right. And I'm sure there might have been ways to break up something like this. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know.
So let's get into Countdown Arena.
All right. Like I said, I really love the starting with the Batman issue because he's grabbed from Earth 19 and Wonder Woman from Earth 21, and I really enjoyed the careful planning. Monarch is pulling selected versions. He grabs Hal Jordan from Earth 12 and warns Earth's firestorm that he may be back for him. I mean, imagine that. You see, this is Green Lantern yanked from your world, and you're like, I could be next?
What the heck?
What does this mean?
The fact that he's able to snatch Green Lantern and just manhandle Green Lantern, who is a very powerful dude, is like whoa.
Set the stage right away that this is a bad dude. Earth 31 is where I really got a grasp of what I wanted from this series. I wanted to get into Monarch's head. And that's really because I'm digging Monarch, I'm into his whole story, but I want to know some of his motivations. What is he all about? His analysis of this Superman really worked for me. If you are creating an army and need to bring in a Superman, one who is older, more in control, would be very useful and a good selection. As we look into the bleed, Superman wakes up, and he's becoming our eyes into this issue, and into this situation, and I liked that writing approach. Not only is it 3 Supermen, Batman, Green Lanterns, Wonder Woman, members of the JSA, the Legion, Blue Beetle, Flashes, and so many more. And I want to point out that I saw a lone Hawk Girl. Even Monarch realizes that too many Hawks on one ship would be more awesomeness than anyone could handle. It would also bring down morale. Imagine being surrounded by that greatness instead of just being in his presence. It would bring out the inadequacies of the other acquisitions, which was smart planning on Monarch's part.
Where's the mace? I just want to bash in that one.
As Superman starts to take the leadership role, Monarch sets himself apart by killing a whole slew of characters, including Hawkgirl, which in my eyes was his first misstep. Seriously.
Well, actually, maybe he recognized too much awesomeness, and he was afraid. He was afraid of Hawkgirl, is what it was.
Really, and just really being, short,
So he had to blindside her and sucker punch her.
Right, and basically just to make an example for everybody, and just say, if I can do this to Hawkgirl, what am I going to do to the rest of you? Yeah.
Now I'm an enabler of you. What the heck am I doing?
You really are, yeah, because I was ready to move on. Seriously, though, this set the mood that this is a character that not only takes control, but demands it. And that was a key there. This was all to make the point, don't mess with me. This is about my conquest. You are merely my tools for achieving that goal, and all of you are expendable. Just great lines, great ideas. He adds further insult by reminding them that there are 49 other replacements for them.
Yeah.
He sets the premise. He needs the strongest of each type. They will battle in an arena in the quantum dimension. To make matters worse, only 3 are immune to the radiation poisoning, which means all of them that are going in there are getting poisoned while they fight each other to decide who is going to be on his army. So, wait, let's say hypothetically that you're of the mind that, okay, I'm going to win this and I'm going to join Monarch's army. What is that radiation poisoning doing to your long term? Like, you fight for him. Let's say you win. Let's say eventually you're under the theory that, boy, if I do well for Monarch, he might release me, let me live, and do all that other stuff. But you're still under the question of, what is that going to do to me long term? What am I going to be like after this? And you got to go, oh my God.
Hey, does Monarch really care about your long term?
No.
What are the health benefits like in the Monarch army? Is it pretty good? Do you have dental? Do you have the vision?
Does he have Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Yeah.
I don't know.
See, I don't see him as that. I see him.
I don't. Yeah. There's no union.
No.
And if there was, he'd kill him.
That's how you handle strike breakers.
Because there's 49 other replacements. Yeah. Monarch also warns that escape in any form will be dealt with severely. And so the Nightshades start first. And I like the pacing of this, because it wasn't all about the big four. We got to see battles with the other heroes as well. And I needed that. Keep this book moving, keep some excitement going on here. 2 of the Nightshades talk about joining forces, while the other is clearly a villain version, kind of like the Shade. Nightshade dies, Eve of Shadows lives to kill the villain version, and decides to take this moment to escape. And this book showed us the true power of Monarch. He was waiting for her and killed her husband, that world's Captain Atom, destroyed the continent as well. Now, we do see later that he pops up again. But I was under the impression, they just toasted him. All this was to set an example. She joins his army not as an honor, but as a punishment now. And I can't believe this guy was once Captain Atom from our world.
Dude, man, I liked how they used minor characters to accent just, 1, his power, 2, the fact that, hey, these are characters that if he doesn't get, he doesn't really care about. To be honest with you, he just wants his big characters. He wants his big guns, so he's going to use these little characters to let them know, I am all-powerful, don't throw down with me.
I disagree, though. I think he wants one of each because he's seen the Justice League system, where there's a value to having a diverse range of characters with a diverse range of powers to handle diverse situations. If you grab characters like Nightshade and your Zatannas and characters like that versus just the big guns, you cover magic, you cover that, otherworldly realm that maybe they aren't as versed in handling. So you really are diversifying your army to handle any situation, which shows a little bit of his history that he was part of the Justice League. He's seen what this is like, and that there's an advantage to having these characters. So I don't think it's that he doesn't care. I think it's that he's saying, okay, I've got 3 Nightshades here. If one of them doesn't work out, we're going to yank another 3 and try this all over again. And that's more of what I got out of it. I agree with you on the not caring so much if these 3 survive, as much as that there is a survivor out of the 49 that are left outside of that. So he has at least his army and the balance that he's looking for. He wants one of each.
Yes, he does. And I don't know.
He's building the Noah's Ark, sort of the DC universe.
Right.
But it's not a happy ark.
Yes, yeah.
You're right about the not caring. I guess in my eyes it's for a different reason. It's because he knows that these are tools. And like any tool, if it turns out that the 3 that he picked, not one of them's a craftsman, you can go to the Sears and pull out another one until you find the Craftsman. And now he's looking for his Craftsman tool.
Right. Or his Binford.
Right. The heroes debate over the threats against their world and the example, and each Batman tries to rally that together they can develop a strategy to take him down. Although the Red Rain Bats is not so worried about death. Both the Red Sun Superman and the Earth 31 Superman debate, but I noticed similarities. Both have strong beliefs in their personal ideals and will step up on behalf of those ideals in any situation. But they butt heads over the fact that they are so set in their philosophies and their backgrounds. Monarch is treating them all like children. He generally views them that way, and he knows how their minds work. He knows that they think this is some supervillain death trap, and he's quite an enigma here. He appears in a room, and you can't help but stop to hear what he has to say. And I will argue that he is a good leader. He's a psychopath, but the most prominent psychopathic leaders in history had that quality that makes them quite creepy.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that are, will definitely have that charismatic.
Charlie Manson got a whole gang of people following him.
And he was a nut jobby, It's,
Dropping the cut-up nightshade at their feet was another way of breaking their spirit, showing them his control. He is studying them as they battle. Batman is the tactician, and you can tell that he truly looks forward to the battle. And the battle was great. The Victorian-era Batman reminding us of his logic. The battle needs to be fought and fast. Go for the vampire first with the knives to the eyes. And I like the warrior aspect of Batman. He was trained in various martial arts, and to see him agree to fight unarmed with the JSA Liberty Files Batman was kind of cool, showing that sense of honor. I liked that aspect of it. The vampire Batman recovers and bites the Victorian-era Batman, but is stopped before biting the Liberty Files one as Monarch takes him into his army. Superman's totally disgusted by this whole display, which totally fits that character, and he decides it is time to rally against Monarch in the cliffhanger. I like the pacing of this issue, because it was Monarch development, battle between the Nightshades, and each battle had a different ending, and a different way that it went that wasn't, all clean. Nothing was cookie cutter about the battles. They all fit the individual characters and showed that, Keith Champagne, when he was writing this, was trying to use the unique features of each character to keep it interesting. Because this could have been very dry. Battle, Monarch talk, battle.
Right, yeah.
But the battles themselves were very interesting because of the fact that he utilized the power sets of the characters in their background.
You have the personality of the characters coming out, just the little quirks that, one character will be a little bit different than the other, but their same basic of who they are was still, there. There was no point in time when I was reading this that I think, oh, Batman wouldn't do that. These are Batman. They acted the way they should have acted, and their little character twists are who they are. I like that. And same thing with any of these characters. When I read them, I felt, yes, this is that character. It was the characterization of them that they had down in this scenario.
And the development of Monarch, and see, and this is where cutting it up into pieces loses weight for me. The character development of Monarch in the first issue alone, with the contrast between the battles and the side stories, in between the battles, and actually being able to look at the difference between Nightshade's and Batman's battles and his analysis of them. Reading them in a single issue like this and being able to see that pacing worked so much better for me than it would have in little pieces. I think those connections, because this would have taken a good 5-6 weeks to play out in this first issue alone. And I think a lot of that would have been lost in I'm going to try to remember what happened 5 weeks ago in the first part. That's where, because remember, this was released weekly.
Right.
So we got one issue per week of this particular event, and I liked the way that it kind of developed that way. I don't know. It just, I guess it was personal preference.
And, as I said, I didn't dislike this. I enjoyed this.
I'm wondering, though.
I'm looking for other ways.
Well, no, and just playing devil's advocate on the other side, I'm wondering if people, I don't know what the sales numbers were like on this, and I'd actually like to see what some of John Mayo, what they talk about over on the Comic Book Page podcast as far as the numbers on this particular title, because I would be interested to see how this sold compared to Countdown, because of the fact that it was 2 weekly series now that were going on at the same time for that particular month.
Right.
I liked it being paced that way because it was nice to get Countdown and get this and be able to delve into both. And I actually read Countdown first, then this. So I was reading them back to back as it was going on. They didn't tie in together in any way, and it didn't really matter that I did, but I liked it. the way that they handled it. But I'm curious to see if people avoided this because it was a weekly series, or if it did well because they knew it was only 4 weeks and you got to vote on it. If that little twist, made people want to see. Which Batman did you vote for?
Gotham by Gaslight.
Did you really? I voted for Red Rain. I've wanted to see the vampire guy win. So.
Yeah, I like vampires and all that, but for some reason I was like, that'd be kind of neat to have Gotham by Gaslight. I'd like to see what he would do.
Yeah, I liked all those stories too. It was kind of cool because we do get to see later in the story that the Gotham by Gaslight character does get more airtime. So, issue 2, Superman begins to rally the troops, and he inspires. And this is important because people naturally trust Superman to make the right decisions. They feel that together they can take down Monarch, and I really like the pacing of this because we needed to see a contrast. In most cases, the disorganization of heroes causes the downfall. When they rally, they win. It's an interesting study to see what happens when Monarch knows them so well that he would account for them to rally together. All rally behind him, and I won't go crazy here. There's a great Wikipedia article on the Countdown Arena that describes all of the various versions of the heroes and their roles in Countdown Arena, so I'm not going to go too crazy on this is the Wonder Woman from this Earth or that person, because there's articles that do that much better than I'm ever going to. Otherwise, we're going to have like an 8-hour podcast talking about the background stories of these characters versus just what happened in Arena. Most side with Superman until the Red Sun Superman, who still has a chip on his shoulder, steps up. Christopher Kent's Son of Zod steps in between them. A version of Ray Palmer breaks the fight up ultimately by revealing he has the powers of the Ray, which was kind of a neat little twist. Superman, and this Superman I should mention is the one from the Millerverse. It's actually the one from All-Star Batman and Robin.
Right.
So it's that Superman. Clark wants to know what happened to the one that was still alive. In case you have forgotten amid the stress of the situation, let me remind you who's in charge here. I alone have the power to destroy not only you, but your loved ones, your countries, your entire worlds. Dude lets out an energy blast that takes them all down and finds Superman's need to learn about this amusing. He's looking at Superman and laughing at him.
Yeah.
That's a bad dude that Monarch just says that. And he didn't just say, I'm going to go kill your family. I'm destroying your countries, your entire worlds. Oh my gosh. Apollo from Wildstorm, Ray Palmer, and a fascist version of the Ray are up next. I expected Apollo to win. He's a member of the Authority, and I was kind of like, Apollo's going to win this. And I liked that all of the winners were not obvious. He tried to kill Ray Palmer, but he also has the ability to shrink and used both of the sets of powers to his advantage, which was a neat little twist. I didn't expect it. I guess I assumed, okay, Apollo's a big-name character. None of the other two are really prominent characters featured in their own series. I naturally just assumed.
Yeah, that was a neat little usage of the powers. That is one of the things I really liked when I was, that fight sequence, that was kind of cool, and I'm glad that in the end they didn't kill off Apollo. I would have been really mad if Apollo had died, because that is the Wildstorm Apollo. I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to that universe, so part of me was half expecting, Authority to step in or have him win and then have him leave, and maybe Monarch was the cause of Wildstorm Armageddon, or something like that is what I was thinking. Maybe this would go, and I was pleasantly surprised. I like seeing that.
Nice twist.
Yeah.
What's also nice is the Flash segments were a nice setup. Johnny Quick is a slimeball, trying to make the moves on the tangent Flash. Jay is the classic hero we know from Earth 2. The flirting and provocative nature will be a prominent part of the Flash battle, which happens later. So it's nice that they were thinking ahead. It wasn't just all about that current issue. It was about how is this going to play out later. The various Blue Beetles fight, and the one who looks like a bug offered to help build a way out, and this plays big later. The one that is all tiny bugs actually eats Dan Garrett and the Ted of Earth 33 to gain a place by Monarch's side. This battle plays into later storytelling and will reveal that Monarch is even ruthless to those loyal to him. But there's a really nice pacing and build. The fights aren't just fights, Jim, they are fights. And
You're number one, buddy.
No, really, the fights aren't simplistic. There's some depth to them.
Yeah.
They become reference for characters for later on, revelations about Monarch. It really does explore for the storytelling, which was great. Once again, the nature of each character type stands out in the Green Lantern battle. They band together the way the Corps usually does, even rallying behind the Bruce Wayne Green Lantern, who has a bit of an ego, but takes to the Batman-style role and acts as a tactical man.
I gotta say that the Green Lantern fight was my favorite fight, as well as my least favorite fight.
Okay.
You know, my favorite fight in that, I loved how they band together, how it was like the core, and boom. My least favorite in that, the winner didn't win, as opposed to get... He was the guy who got the least amount of butt kicked by Monarch, if you think about it.
See, I liked that, though.
That's why I kind of...
But see, where that worked for me is, that's why I said that the battles weren't cookie cutter. And I guess I expected there always to be battle between three people, winner. And it wasn't as simple as that. And it adds back to, I guess, what we were saying before, where it adds more weight to what you were saying. Monarch really doesn't care who winds up on his army, as long as he has his archetypes. I think there are generals that he wants in place, going back to what you're saying, where there's certain people that need to be the generals. But the end result is, as far as the Nightshades go, he didn't care which Nightshade won, as long as he had a version of Nightshade. Same thing with the...
Let me... When I say least favorite, I'm not saying I disliked what I read, because I did like it, and exactly what you're talking about, how it wasn't a cookie-cutter thing.
Right.
My least favorite in that, I really wanted to see Bruce Wayne Batman just kick the crap out of all the other Lanterns. And it was just like...
Did you vote for him, too?
Oh, yeah. I really wanted to see him just, slay the smackdown.
Did you actually read that Elseworlds?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great Elseworlds.
So that's when I say least favorite, not in that... I agree with you how it wasn't a cookie-cutter story, how it was a different little... Once again, another swerve that I didn't really see coming, that I enjoyed in route that I was reading. But I really did want to see Bruce Wayne just slay the smackdown.
The only thing I liked about it was he started off being your typical Bruce Wayne, but he had to respect the thinking of the two Hal Jordans, who stepped up the way Green Lanterns normally would in the core mentality. And I liked that this battle was different because it fit the unique nature of the Green Lanterns. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's where it totally worked for me, because the Green Lantern from Captain Marvel Earth survives and wins by default, even though, like you said, Monarch basically took them all out. And Monarch's lackeys are throwing the dead into the bleed and saving the live ones as backup.
Yeah.
So the bleed's now like this, death zone of bodies. So if you wanted to bleed, it would be very possible you'd drive by and the Green Lantern would be on your windshield. I mean, it's like, and I'm not I mean, that's like pretty disturbing. It's pretty disturbing, I think, that way too, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
When they go to throw out the Victorian era Batman, he turns and bites them, and it's been made into a vampire. And a great attack on the cliffhanger. I didn't expect that. I knew that he was bit. I didn't expect. Did you expect him to turn into a vampire because he was bit?
Yes.
Okay, so you saw that coming.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one coming a mile away. And I like the fact that he didn't completely become another Red Rain number 2. He is still himself. He's still the strategist. He still thinks the way he thought before. And I like that about him.
Because it kept his nature.
He kept his nature even though he is still a vampire. So he's not...
But also, and we'll see in the storytelling, they also do address the fact that he does realize that he has the vampire bloodlust, though.
Yeah.
And I like that he addresses that. Yeah. He says this is here, and it's going to be something that has to be dealt with. It was, nice build, more than just plain battles. And, the heroes are in desperate situation, and they do not want to be a part of it. But they're becoming frustrated because they're not sure how to get out of it. And that is the nice thing that continued all the way through for me. In issue 3, the Victoria Batman kills Monarch's men, but then looks to go after Apollo and the Liberty Files Batman next. When the stasis field gets in the way, he claims he was going to free them. At first I thought, okay, no, these guys are food. But his later actions made me realize he was really on the up and up.
Yeah.
But didn't you think at first, like, he was going to,
at first I thought,
were Lunchables?
Yeah. And I like the fact that he was able to, once again, we're seeing there is that bloodlust because he's a vampire.
Right.
It's going to happen. It's hard not to. You get caught up in the moment. But there is still Batman there. There is still that Victorian-era Batman who is that strategist, who is that detective, that is the coolness of Batman.
The Red Sun Superman lives to get a rise out of the All-Star Batman and Robin Superman. The gadgets that the Ted Cord Beetle made up is being analyzed, that harness that he made. And Monarch brings the various Starman and women in next. Imagine you are Superman and told you are being put up with only because your behavior is great comic relief. I mean, talk about the ultimate slap to the face. He's used to being respected by both allies and villains. And look, he's Superman. He's being basically told he's an ant.
Yeah.
Again, these are tools as he votes for the Starman of Earth 48 because of his vicious nature. They're toys to him.
Yeah.
The ape Starman is noble but dies quickly. Starwoman accidentally decapitates the Starman of Earth 48, end of battle. And I like how she reacted similar to our Courtney. I am so sorry. You know, I saw that kind of connection right away to her.
That was a neat little... Once again, the characterization of who they are. They're not the same type of people. And I liked this fight in that it was a nice... splash, just a freshness between. You got all these, the big names, the big Superman. You got Wonder Woman. You got the Green Lantern. Just throwing this one in there, it was a cool little add-on.
The Victorian Batman meets the heroes and basically takes charge. It's very Morrison JLA. This Batman, the way that he's responding to them. Breaches to get as many alternative versions of Captain Atom, Monarch, and bring them there. Batman and 2 versions of Captain Atom head down to free the survivors of the arena while the Supermen provide a distraction by fighting. In the battle end of things, the Flashes are next. Jay helps take down Johnny Quick and the Tangent Flash turns on him. Johnny vibrates through her, killing her, does the same to Jay and wins. At least I thought they were dead, but Batman seems to think they can be freed later, so they must have survived. Must have just basically cut the air supply off so they could live.
Yeah, I was a little
confused there.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused there, and I think they're both alive. But I really liked what I call it the double twist. First when the Tangent, when the female, cute little innocent little thing turns, I'm like, oh, nice. And then Johnny Quick does. I'm like, that was, once again, it's not a cookie cutter fight. Right. This is a little bit different. This is a double twist in the fight, and the nasty evil villain wins in this. I like that.
And all the Flashes are uniquely different, and because of that, we got to see their unique personalities in this. And that's again, like I said, I agree with you. It was nice that each issue did not feel like the same thing. Placement of battles were very similar, but the storytelling and the way that it all carries out was very unique.
Bad guys acted like bad guys, good guys acted like good guys, especially in the Flash fight scene. We saw Jay act like Jay. And
they also, realizing though the differences they have because of their worlds, their need to bond with certain characters, like the Tangent Flash is a good guy, or a good girl.
She was? Yeah. I kind of took her more as a... because she did the little sucker punch there as well.
I guess in the Tangent, she was kind of written as a hero.
Oh, okay.
Not as much of a Boy Scout as like a Jay Garrick is.
Right, okay. Yeah, and you gotta win, so...
Right.
Okay.
And it does go to show, like, what would you do in that battle? Because you're fighting for your own world as well as your own survival, so, I don't know. Great move by having a mixture of good guy and bad guy archetypes winning. It adds realism, and that there's some methods that work better in an arena environment, too. That kind of works for me. There's debates between the big three that are always a good thing, and even more interesting when they are all of 3 different Earths. Batman has appointed himself lead that, Superman takes issue with. Batman could care less because he has a strategy. They have a chance to get the Captain Atoms here and free the others. Timing is everything, and he urges Wonder Woman to be the distraction so Monarch is not aware of the deception. If they fail, the Supermen need to be the ones to defend them all. And I didn't expect Monarch to figure out that Breach was missing so fast, and that was terrific. It was a twist that added to the desperation of the whole thing. He's annoyed now and easily makes short work of everyone, but then noticed that Christopher stayed out of the fight. And he did so because he knew there was no use in it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't going to be something they could win. It wasn't something that would advance them. So why step into it right now? Why expend the energy?
I liked, just the, if you will, this, in a way, the logical aspect of him. He is more of a creature of energy. So why would he expel the energy? That was a neat little
and very metaphysical.
Yeah.
Which annoys the Superman who's a man of action.
Right.
And it just goes to show he's got issues with the Red Sun Superman. He's got issues with this Superman now because he's kind of like, where were you, dude? And so it's really interesting. Monarch walks away telling them that he planned for every contingency. And that was like an oh crap moment because I started to realize that this was true, and I loved it. Because you're not used to a villain that, usually the villain oversteps, tips their hat. They thought they accounted for something and they didn't, or they underplanned, and this one made no mistakes.
Yeah, and you're reading this saying, the villain's going to win. We actually have a situation where the villain's actually going to win this. Wow, that was something really cool with what the story was and who he was.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Wonder Woman fight showcased the Amazon code. They will honor the gods with the glory in the battle. And I'll be honest with you, this one I had the toughest time deciding who I was going to vote for. Between the 3 Wonder Women.
Yeah.
I ended up going with the New Frontier Wonder Woman, just because it's probably my favorite story out of the batch. So I typically, in all these cases, went with my favorite story. But they had the Wonder Woman of Earth 18, who was in the Justice Riders, the Wonder Woman of Earth 21, who was in New Frontier, and then the Wonder Woman of Earth 34, who was in Amazonia. And that was ultimately the one.
Yeah, I went with the cowgirl one.
From the Justice. Did you read the Justice Riders?
No. And to be honest, when I picked the Wonder Woman, I was like, let's go with the cowboy or cowgirl or whatever, because I figured, why not?
The issue ends with Captain Atom rallying behind Breach. It's basically Eve's husband was the part where I was kind of like, didn't he die? Did you think he was dead?
I thought they fried him, but maybe it's harder
because
to put
of
down.
His nature.
Yeah,
but he survived the destruction of the continent. Well, I guess you know what it was. We didn't really see him killed as much as we saw the continent blow up. So I guess being that he's Captain Atom,
he was able to survive it. Yeah.
Issue 4, the opening page was really well done to me. I liked the reflection of the 3 Supermen in Monarch's helmet. It was just kind of a neat little twist. This is definitely the way the series needed to build, with the Supermen being the last, being that they were kind of the focal characters of the Resistance, so to speak.
And the one was basically our eyes and ears into there, and the story was in a way kind of told from his perspective. So it's kind of cool that you say the last, and as everyone says, the best for last, and it is Superman.
One of the great things about putting Superman against an unstoppable force is that you get to see that he is a true hero who stands behind his belief system, and that's another good thing about it taking the whole series before you actually see him get into battle. Even when he knows he may die, and this happened with Doomsday, it's now happened with Monarch, we see it when he loses his powers. I need these moments periodically to remember why he is such a cool character. Add kind of a humanity to him. The opening banner between the Red Sun Superman and the All-Star Batman and Robin version was great, showing once more the difference in philosophies. Red Sun is all about his people. He doesn't want to fight for Monarch, but will do so in order to protect the millions. If it means killing here, he has to do that. Done. Flip side is that the All-Star Batman and Robin supes will not compromise on that. There is always another way, and he will find it. It's kind of the Cold War all over again. In many ways, both are past their time. That our Earth's kind of moved on beyond the Cold War, but they're still letting it live. Old soldiers never let go of their respective feelings with regards to each other. Better dead than red, the commie comments, that type of thing. Both are set in their ways and will not budge, and there's a nice contrast to Christopher, who is in many ways the evolution of both. So you're kind of seeing the past and the future, in a contrast here. I do like the historical aspect of the different times and places because you get those variations in the past, present, and the future from reading the current continuity stories and kind of seeing that, with the Victorian era and different things like that. Christopher offers to basically absorb both so that they can live on within him. Why bother with this petty and messy fighting? And Red Sun Superman, yeah, that's a plan. And you know what? I am so with them. I don't always know how I would react in an intense situation. We've talked about this many times. We're like, how would you step up? And you're always like, you would hope you would, but you're never sure. But in this particular case, I definitely know. Self-preservation, baby. You're not absorbing me. I am going to fight.
Yeah.
That's completely different. Again, ideology kicks in. These are the characters who need their philosophy to be right. It's who they are. They wear it like a badge, and it makes sense they would all continue to fight for who they are. And I genuinely like that both versions of Clark Kent are presented here. Superman seems to hint at Bruce when he talks about hitting low, and that's how he learned from the best, which would be kind of like the Millerverse Batman. And it would have been interesting to see who won. Even though, going back to what you're saying about Green Lantern, even though the All-Star Batman and Robin Superman seems to take the lead, both pass out from breaching the barrier. Christopher seems honorable, and I do like that about him. He drags them back to the arena before they die from poisoning. The Victorian-era Batman's plan is backfiring. Monarch knew he was coming and the troops are waiting. He easily burns them alive. Breach was also part of the plan. He is setting them up. He wants to He wants the power of his counterparts. He wants to take that from them. Ted Kord was also in on the plan, which is why he created the machine. My little drama with Breach and Ted Kord was a distraction. A false hope to keep you from finding a real one. This is what I like about this villain. He's a thinking man, as well as intensely powerful, and you have to wonder how he could be defeated. Give them hope, but keep yanking it away to gain respect and control. It's a dictator's mentality. Kind of parallels a little bit of what we were talking about with Granny Goodness.
Exactly, dude. But I tell you, you gotta love when, we always talk about how this super powerful villain, really accents because, the heroes have to do something extreme to take him out. This isn't just super powerful. This is brilliantly intelligent. And that was something that really caught me. I was like, wow, this is something cool because he planned for it. He knew they would try to break out because they're heroes. They're going to band together. They're going to look for a way to overpower him. So give them that opening, because they're used to looking. They're used to having a villain make that one mistake. So give them that one mistake and plan for the mistake and then plan the defense against the mistake. I love that about, the Monarch and just this whole story.
Christopher could have killed them both. Instead, he wants to win with honor. He figured out how to tune himself to the radiation so he could suck it from them, and I like that he won't show them how, though, because they are fighting to the death. Honorable, but not stupid enough to give up his advantage. But I do like there were some twists here in how they were reacting and behaving, and that there seemed to be something more going on as the story went on, like they were kind of in cahoots. Christopher increases in size, similar to what we've seen from Superman Prime, as he absorbs energy, and this actually has a history in Superman as he went through similar problems with absorption of too much power. Christopher increases in size, and the two other Supermen team up against this common foe. He is similar to Monarch in the sense that he sees himself as unbeatable because of his evolution. Like, you guys can't possibly stand up to me because I have surpassed you. Like any teacher, though, he's almost trying to teach them to fight with a better code of conduct and skill, and is almost disappointed. It goes back to the metaphysical thing. He's almost disappointed by the battle. Mm-hmm. And I like that kind of admonishing. This is where it really got good, though, because they rip up the ground, releasing more radiation. Christopher absorbs it and uses the full amount of his energy on Monarch, hoping the other two can defeat him. So he committed suicide to give them a window.
Yeah, and it was funny, because when that was going on, I'm like, you read it and thinking, can they actually beat him? I think they can't. Like, you're going, they can't beat Monarch. Monarch's got to be your live. Monarch's got to win here. So, but it still gave you that hope as the reader that the heroes were going to triumph. The heroes were going to win. No, they're not.
But again, it shows that Christopher is a Superman.
Yeah.
Because when the chips were down and he saw that, hey, if I give myself up here, I can provide an opening for them that they would not have otherwise. This was the one last-ditch effort. He knew, I'm done for if I do this. But he did it anyway. And how cool was that? Unfortunately, Monarch still stands, and this is when Breach returns with the various versions of Captain Atom. Monarch loses his helmet during the battle, unleashes his full power, and the all-star Batman and Robin Superman survives due to Breach, who seems to remember who he was and who he stands for.
There's a little bit of the original Captain Atom in him. There's still a bit of the hero in him.
Breach had his own series too for a while. So
I don't know.
I mean, he's a character that has. So he gives him the harness and tells him that his only hope is to escape. Imagine a threat that Superman can't stand up to. I mean, he stood up to Doomsday. He urges him to take the prisoners and go, which puts another army out there for Countdown or the Final Crisis, and I'm curious to see where they pop up.
I'm thinking Final Crisis, they're going to pop up.
Yeah. The Charlton-verse Captain Atom is left to face basically who he's evolved into, and I loved the references to looking in a mirror, because this is how Captain Atom looked when he first appeared, and now to kind of look back at that. And the end result is Breach is all that's left, and Monarch says it doesn't matter that he turned on him, he was going to die anyway. And there's that funny moment from Breach, what a strange life this is that I am having, before he is killed. And Monarch's like, not anymore.
Yeah.
Red Sun Superman is left to be a part of the army due to Christopher's suicide and the escape of the other Superman, and once again, unique ending to a battle, which was, to me, it was good writing. Superman left a calling card to show that he took the reserve heroes with him, and I'm anxious to see how that plays out. The calling card was cool. It's kind of like his saying, I'm leaving, but I'm not done with you, Monarch. I am going to keep fighting, and that fits who this guy is. Monarch stands with his army, ready for Countdown. I really enjoyed this series a great deal. I guess that's why I was so adamant when we started our discussion about, like, I don't see how you could have cut this up and put it out any other way. Because I don't think this would have worked well with other Countdown stories being interspersed in it. Like taking a few pages, like if they put it in the main book, doing a few pages of this, putting Mary Marvel and Jimmy Olsen and all that. I just think pacing-wise, Countdown itself, the main title, needed to keep moving. I think people needed this event to happen in Countdown, and I think if you'd put this in the main book, it would have taken so much longer to get to that battle that you would have been kind of like, by the time you got to it, it would have been done, because it wouldn't have been happening as quickly as this happened in 4 weeks.
Right, and I fully admit that there is definite weaknesses in my idea, and I didn't dislike this. I enjoyed this, and I like the fact that it does have actual real ramifications that we're going to see again I'm thinking Final Crisis, maybe even Countdown to Final Crisis. I don't know. But we're definitely going to see this again. We're going to see this universe, Superman, and everyone who escaped with him. I'm thinking... My personal theory is Final Crisis, we're going to see it. The heroes will be basically on their last leg, and they're coming in like the cavalry. And he's going to be gathering his own army. He's going to be doing the anti-monarch, pulling up heroes from here, pulling up heroes from this universe, pulling up heroes from this universe, and he's going to show up at like the great final battle that they have as like another force coming in. That's how I see this.
Mm-hmm. I do like your idea about the backup stories.
Yeah.
The only issue with that is I go back to the financial part of it. That is the part where it really gets to me because I would have paid for it. You would have paid for it. And they could have worked there. But I think anytime you put something in a backup story, that means it didn't need to be in the main story. Otherwise, it would have been there. So in this particular case, if they had put this in as a backup story, and it's a mini because it didn't need to be in the main story. Otherwise, they would have referenced it in the main book. Go read this in order to understand what's going on here. But instead, what they did is they put little tidbits in the main Countdown story so you knew what was going on, and you really could completely miss this. And if you're a fan of the Monarch story, I recommend you read this.
Oh, definitely, because it gives a lot of insight to who Monarch is, and actually, in Countdown, you see him as just this super powerful being that, and you don't see more than just the super powerful. You see in this the strategist, the general or commander in chief, the reason why he can possibly be the one monarch of the universe.
Instead of Countdown Arena, they could have very easily called this a Monarch as well.
Right.
Because it really was using the heroes to kind of give you more development on who he is and how he fits into the whole DC universe now. And how he's using his history in the DC universe against the heroes, which was an interesting little twist. What would happen if a hero went wrong? Jim, next up, we have an audio comment from Eli. It's actually part 2 of his discussion on Astro City, where he focuses heavily on the Dark Age.
Hi, this is Raging Bullets listener Eli from New York City, back again to finish up what I started with Astro City. Okay, well right now Astro City's in the middle of their epic tale called The Dark Age, which takes place during the 1970s. It's broken up into 4 parts, or books, with each book consisting of 4 issues, or 16 issues. It's actually 16 and a half, which I'll tell you about in a second. The last issue of Book 2 was just recently released. Now the entire epic, once again, is a story of Charles and Royal Williams, African-American brothers living in Astro City, and how, quote, their lives are shaped by superheroic events around them, all stemming from what happened one night when they were kids, end quote. Now that one night in question is described in the Dark Age prequel. So here's the half issue, the prequel, which is called On Mulberry Street, which came out in the Astro City Aerosmith flip book. Aerosmith is another Busick title, an amazing title, very complicated to get into now, but just it's really good. And they released a flip book. One half was the prequel to this Dark Age story, and the other half was the prequel to the Aerosmith story. And they would have it where you would flip it over, and it would start with Astro City, and if you flip it over again and turn it around, it would be Aerosmith. So anyway, so the prequel, Charles and Royal are kids in the 60s, and then something life-changing happens to them, or is about to happen to them. So when the Dark Age starts, we move to 1972. Charles has grown up to be a cop, and Royal has grown up to be a petty thug. Now, Astro City is a mess. Burned out stores, crumbling infrastructure, and scores of superheroes and supervillains, just making it all worse. So Book 1, Issue 1 starts off with both brothers taking individual walks around the city and looking around them, and they both come up with the same assessment: chaos. Now, will the superhero guardians protect them against this chaos? According to Charles, fat chance. They're all a part of it. They came into our lives and brought it all with them. It's just breaking down all around them. So the Dark Age also finally tells the tale of the Silver Agent. Now I say finally because we first learned of the Silver Agent back in years ago in Volume 2 of Astro City, Issue number 1, which is currently collected in the Family Album trade paperback. And in that story we see a statue of the Silver Agent erected in Astro City, and the inscription on it is Alan Craig, the Silver Agent, 1932 to 1973, to our eternal shame. Now, the Silver Agent, who's he? He's kind of the Captain America of Astro City. He was very big in World War II, started the Honor Guard, which is kind of the JLA of the Astro City world, and he was the true hero of Astro City, the first really great hero. Silver Agent kind of looks like the Guardian from Metropolis out of DC Comics, which I remember from the death of Superman. I don't know what happened to him since, but the Silver Agent looks like that. So the backstory that takes over Charles and Royal's life in this first book of 4 issues is the Silver Agent and what happens to him at this time in the 70s. Now, what happens to him is that we see the Silver Agent assassinate a nefarious world leader. He gets arrested, he escapes, he gets captured again, he faces trial, he loses popular support, he gets convicted for murder. While he's locked away, he disappears with no explanation, and then reappears in his jail cell, and then he gets executed. And all to find out at the end that he was not to blame. It was all a setup by the guy that he assassinated. The guy he assassinated turns out not to be dead. The agent was under mind control, and it wasn't his fault. So they executed an innocent man. Hence the eternal shame inscription on the statue. Now, we also learned in the Dark Age that the event that was foretold in the prequel, that event is the murder of Royal and Charles's parents at the hands of the supervillainous group called Pyramid. Now, the Silver Agent played a part in that night, and it figures prominently on how Royal and Charles view the agent. In fact, the agent's execution didn't really leave much of an impression on them one way or the other. They were pretty cold by it. So that's how Book 1 ends, with the execution of the Silver Agent. Now, as we begin Book 2, in those 4 issues, we see Royal climbing up the ranks of the underworld as Brother Charles becomes an outcast in the police department because he won't take a bribe. And we see heroes change their tactics and the way they operate. They become lethal when once they were benevolent. We see heroes question what they've become. One hero, in particular, called Street Angel, he used to be a wisecracking guy with always a smile and this crazy array of halos that he would use to subdue bad guys, round halos, like an angel's halos. And he would throw them, like Green Arrow would use his arrows. Depending on each situation, he would have these halos. Today, in the 70s, anyway, the Street Angel's halos are ceramic-coated steel rings, and they were just used for one purpose, which would be to seriously injure the person that they were aimed at, or worse, possibly kill them. And in Book 2, we see how Street Angel comes to grips with that and how he is kind of ashamed at what he's become. Also in Book 2, an entity appears hovering over the city. It's a giant body with no features at all, just this giant body. And what he happens to be is that he proves to be a harbinger of more chaos to come. Time-traveling heroes make appearances, none more compelling than the Silver Agent, years after his execution. So the agent arrives, he saves the day, and now he's face-to-face with the populace of Astro City that condemned him to death. And then the Silver Agent says, "Don't worry, everything will be fine," and he disappears. And of course, he went back in time to get executed. He hints of making another appearance years later, but that story hasn't been written yet, so we don't know what happens now for the Silver Agent. So that tells the Silver Agent story. There's a mob war going on as well that Royal Williams reluctantly finds himself in the middle of. Charles Williams is nearly assassinated by his own officers because he won't take the bribe. And the only thing that saves his life is that Royal has now discovered the person responsible for the murder of their parents. Charles is on his deathbed. Royal is gets in to see him and tells him this information, and that gets Charles to start to go on the road to recovery. He has a reason to live now, to find out who killed their parents. So that's where we are with the Dark Age. We've got 2 more books to go, 4 issues each. It started in June of 2004 with the prequel, and now 3.5 years later, we're only halfway done. It has been really a tremendous read. It's told in such epic fashion. We have our 2 main characters from the story, Charles and Royal Williams, in the middle of a world of heroes, and that world is in chaos. Their seemingly insignificant lives are just so intrinsically connected with the survival of Astro City. And at the end of Book 2, we see the Williams brothers poised for a comeback, and maybe, too, will Astro City. There's a lot left to tell, So at this time, I have no idea when the first issue of Book 3 will be released. And frankly, if there's a downside to all this, is the schedule that the books come out. There just doesn't seem to be one. Book 2, issue number 3, came out with a cover date of June '07. Issue number 4 has a cover date of November '07. That's 5 months between issues. All 8 issues have taken 2 years to come out. There have been 2 special character issues which don't seem to be related to the story. They may turn out to be related when the whole thing's out and the story's been told. But the pace makes it very difficult to keep interest in it. I just hope the schedule gets better with issues with books 3 and 4. There is an Astro City special that's going to be released on February 13th, 2008, according to the Wildstorm website, dealing with a member of the Honor Guard. I don't know how it connects to the Dark Age story, but the special is due out in February. And the specials have been very good. This one's numbered 2. I thought there were 3, but I think I'm counting one that they're not. The last one was called The Eagle on the Mountain, and it dealt with Samaritan and his greatest nemesis, Infidel. And it was quite good. In fact, that back issue might be a good starting point if you've never read Astro City. You can get that one and get a sense of what it's like and what you could expect from the other issues. And then, if you like that, you can go get the trades or pick up the back issues of Dark City and see and go from there. But the Eagle on the Mountain is a good starting off point. As far as the Dark Age and when Book 3 is going to begin, I haven't a clue. However, I could say that having read all 8 issues of Books 1 and 2 all together, preparing for this audio contribution, I can really appreciate the scope and brilliance of it, and I'm looking forward to Books 3 and 4. Now, if you want to get involved with the Dark Age story, you're going to have to get all the back issues. It makes no sense to start with Book 3 because I just don't think you're going to know what's going on. You may want to wait for the trade, but I also don't know how they're going to be releasing them, if they're going to be doing it in one volume or split the trades up into 4 or 2 parts, kind of like what DC has done with 52. So that's my audio contribution. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Jim, for the opportunity. I hope you all enjoyed it. But before I go, I just wanted to, again, repeat how wonderful Astro City is. With every story, it continues to reveal to me new and exciting ways to view superheroes, and it's just wonderful. I'll read it as long as it gets published. So, as Kurt Busiek ends his Astro City stories, allow me to end mine. You are now leaving Astro City. Please drive carefully.
And I want to thank Eli for that wonderful contribution.
Yes.
The Astro City, it's funny, Astro City, when we talk about scheduling and books being late, I've never had an issue with Astro City's release. There's certain books where it's just kind of like, I know this is Busiek's side project, and it's important to him, and I know when each issue comes out it's going to be special. And honestly, with Astro City, I will admit that sometimes I stockpile when the issues come out, and then I just kind of read them all together in one sitting. Like, it's one of those books. I don't want to say it's a bottom of the stack book because that's makes it sound like I don't, quality-wise. It's a top of the stack book that I will put on the bottom of the stack and just let a few issues gather, and then just sit it all and read it all together. It's one of those books. I agree with what he's saying, that there are certain issues that are better ones to jump on if you want to get a feel for it first, like the back issue he suggested, or even I wouldn't hesitate to suggest saying just pick up the first Astro City trade and read a complete storyline, see if Astro City's for you, and then you'll pick up the other stuff as you go along. Any Astro City trade is contained storytelling, so if you pick up the Astro City trades, you can read them, read a complete storyline, and really get into it. So.
Now, Life in the Big City, that's the first one, right?
I'm almost positive that's the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it collects Astro City 1 through 6.
Yeah, because it was funny, I went to the, after his last commentary, I went to my local shop and I tried to find it, and they didn't have the first one. So I've recently ordered it, and it just arrived, so I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I am definitely looking forward to this.
I read all 6 issues in that particular series. So I don't have the trade of that one. Although Astro City's one of those that I would gladly go back and pick up and trade because it's that good.
I got a pretty good feeling I'll be picking up all the trades of these.
Did you read?
It just literally just arrived, so I haven't had a chance to actually read it, but I have the first one ordered, so I'll be able to comment on it soon.
Yeah, I definitely. I'd like to hear what you think of it, because it's up there with me. It's like another Kingdom Come style storyline. I mean, not in the sense that it's the same story. I just mean, Kingdom Come felt very majestic, very big, where the heroes were just like awe-inspiring. Astro City is another one of those stories where at the end you kind of look at it and go, wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm doing a little bit of research on it actually for from the comments, and then just I don't know, just something about it has my attention. So
yeah, I'm curious to see how you enjoy it. I really am. Thank you once again, Eli, for that wonderful audio comment, because it's nice to get somebody delving into something that we really haven't had a chance to talk about, and Astro City is an important book.
Holy caffeine!
Our next episode is going to be released in 10 days. Whenever we do these 3.5 to 4 hour shows, Jim and I are going to put 10 days between the releases, mainly because, first of all, these are marathon recordings for us. Second of all, I'm glad that we've got the listener content back in, because this episode really covered a lot. We talked about Green Lantern, we talked about a little bit about Black Adam, we talked about the stuff that was going on in Countdown Arena. Finally, Green Arrow, Black Canary we got to discuss. As I mentioned, we are going to reschedule something with James over from the Comic Book Savant podcast, and I highly recommend that you check out his podcast if you haven't. James is a wonderful guy, a good friend of the show. James will be on sometime soon. We will reschedule and talk about a different topic. So,
yes.
Or maybe the same topic. We might revisit Green Arrow, Black Canary again in the future, because there's certainly going to be big events happening in that book. So I'll talk to James and see what he wants to talk about, but he will be coming on the show. We have a number of things planned in the future that we want to get on the episodes and on the show. But it is hard when you're running a podcast to try to coordinate, because he's got his own show that he's coordinating and things like that. So that time-wise, that's often hard to get together. I mentioned Bruce Rosenberger, who's been a long-time friend, not just of the show. I consider him a personal friend. Bruce, I can't praise enough Komicskast. Bruce, when I was getting started, Bruce had been doing Komicskast for quite some time, so he was kind enough to offer me advice, suggestions, help, tips. I think our episode link went far beyond what Bruce expected when we were doing it. But honestly, this show wouldn't be what it was if it wasn't for Bruce's encouragement and really just helping me to be, I think, and you, all of us, to be better podcasters. So Bruce is somebody who I look up to and respect highly. If you haven't listened to Komicskast, you really are doing yourself a disservice, because Bruce covers some very unique topics. It's a very different and unique podcast. I have picked up so many books that I would never have read because of Bruce. He's also doing Indie Comic Book Noise, so if you are a fan of independence, you're going to want to check that out over at the Comic Book Noise feed. And that's another wonderful program from Bruce, so definitely check out either of those. And Bruce always puts together the Comic Podcast Crossover, which we've done a few of them. So here's a promo for Bruce's show. Definitely listen to it and check out Komicskast if you haven't already.
Komicskast episode 91 is out and ready for download. This episode features a rundown of the first 6 issues of Iron Man, starring in Tales of Suspense numbers 39 through 44. Join Stefan, John Hook, and myself as we do a rundown on the stories, the writing and art teams on the books, and we discuss how these fit into the Marvel Silver Age, as well as their role in helping to define one of the key characters in the Marvel Universe. And then, on January 25th, Lyle Tucker, Van Reed, and I return for part 2 of our rundown on Thor. This time we discuss issues 89 to 94 of Journey into Mystery. Are we finally starting to see a glimmer of the character that most of us have known as one of the top Marvel characters for over 40 years? Stop by and listen to find out. You can find these shows at comicscast.libsyn.com. That's comics and cast with a K.
You've done it again.
And definitely check out Komicskast. We definitely want to remind you about the Hero Initiative. Jim and I are continuing to support it, even though the Hero for the Holidays drive is over. And I'm sure other podcasts are doing this too. The Hero Initiative is all year round. There are people out there who are comic book creators who they just need support from us. They need some financial aid and some financial support in order to keep going. They're having, for whatever reasons, health-wise, whatever, they're having trouble finding work and things like that. These are people that laid the foundation. They are the people that our current creators looked up to. We would not have the books that we have now. Even if you're a newer reader, it's worth supporting these people because they are the ones that made this industry possible. This is an art form. And if the people that we're reading today weren't inspired by these creators, we wouldn't have this art form. A couple of bucks is a huge help, because if we all pitch in a couple of bucks, it's all going to help. Whether you do that monthly, bi-monthly, every few weeks, a couple times a year, anything you can throw into the pot all helps. So please consider supporting that particular project. And Jim and I are going to be back next week. We're going to be doing some countdown discussion as we continue our countdown catch-up. We are also going to start the Raging Oscars, which is going to be a multi-part segment. Keep doing the Raging Oscars till we get through it all, but Raging Oscars will become a weekly segment until we complete the Raging Oscars, and that will start next week. Because I want to talk about 2007. What were our favorite books? We're also going to share some of the listener ones that we got from David Wallace. We got the entire DC universe from David Wallace, so we will be sharing what the listeners thought were their best books. Those were a little bit earlier than the end of 2007. They were as of August. Jim and I are going to share our complete thoughts from 2007, so you can kind of hear what we enjoyed, who are our top creators, top books, things like that, favorite moments, and whatnot.
And whatnot.
We will see you in 10 days.
Bye.
By authority of the mystic guardians of the universe, on the far distant planet Oa, Hal Jordan's test pilot becomes the Green Lantern, a cosmic crusader whose magical power ring at his bidding accomplishes the impossible. In his continuing fight against interplanetary evil, Green Lantern, Guardian of the Galaxy.
My head I'd be scratching my head, busy hatching in my own brain. I'd unravel every riddle for any individual in trouble or in pain.
With the thoughts you'd be thinking you could be an Arthur Lincoln if you only had a brain.
Why, the ocean near the shore, I could think of things I never thought before. And then I'd sit and think some more. I would not be just a nuffin', my head all full of stuffin', my heart all full of pain. I would dance and be merry, life would be a ding-a-dairy if I only had a brain.